That means they see an opportunity out there, a gap, they try to fill it. Make a little more of an efficient system, prove payments, save some little money, and they make money. But research-based innovations and startups, small, really small. Weak industry collaboration. At least I'm impressed. I see a lot of industry players here. That's encouraging. Now, commercialization, funding constraints are huge. And then we talk about weak intellectual property regimes. I don't know your case, but I have a feeling it's about the same. Next. So, I am a strong believer of movements. In Kenya, we have something called Harambee, which you should pull together. I don't know. I'm sure there must be something similar in Ghana. So, I am a strong believer of movements, especially when you know you're kind of weak or you're trying to build a national movement. So what do I mean here? I simply mean what we need, because if we talk about the problems, we'll talk about them until tomorrow. But if we start thinking more and more about a movement of informed, that means you can't be ignorant about the facts, determined, disruptive, and bold people. What are we going to do? To continue. I am saying continue because we're not just starting. We continue to act and intervene within our circles of influence and shape the future. That little bit that I can do within my circle of influence and you can do yours, and we add it up and it takes us a certain direction. Let me demonstrate to you how movements work. If you thought it's just a theory, please rise up. Please stand up. I'm inviting you. Please stand up. Okay? So I'm going to demonstrate something and I'd like to see how it plays out. Okay? Now please sit down. And I have a question. Who told you to clap? Who told you to clap? I never said clap. Okay? Who told you to dance? I never told anyone to dance. But we all started doing it. It took just a few seconds and we were all doing it. And I could see we were getting energized and we're getting excited. That's a typical way of creating a movement. There's only one person who didn't rise up, and I'm trying to find out why she didn't. But the point is, all I needed to do is start doing something that I strongly believe in, and then communicate by signs or otherwise that what I'm doing is actually really nice and it'll make you feel good if you do it. And sooner than later, all I needed to do is to stay focused, because once she started responding, I had every reason to stop because I looked crazy. I had every reason to stop that this is nonsense. Let me just go on with my presentation. But in a little while, a number of you started moving, and I got encouraged. I stopped looking at her because she was a source of discouragement to me. Okay? And I focused on those people who are starting to move and they looked happy. And sooner than later, the majority of the congregation was doing exactly what I was doing, and she started feeling out of place. All right. That's how movements work. All we need is just a few of us who strongly believe in what we want to do, stay focused, and will rally behind many others. Next. And in my hypothetical way of thinking, the last 3-4 years I've been spending a lot of time thinking about the individual issues of researchers that we want them to commercialize. At the individual level, this could be students and this could be faculty. And what is it that they go through and the kind of support that they need. Because we could be talking a lot about innovations that should come out of research, and we can see a lot of problems with the content that they are using, the labs and so on and so forth. But what does it practically take to move these things into commercial value? Rubber meets the road, there is the pain. The second thing we've been thinking a lot is the institutional issues. Those individuals that you are talking about exist within certain contexts. And those contexts can be supportive or otherwise. And so we might wish for something, and if we don't sort out the institutional issues, then the individuals can't thrive. And the third thing we've been doing a lot is national level. Whether it is our policies, whether it's our cultures, whether it's our traditions, whether it's our connections, and the way we support institutions and the individuals in those institutions. But yesterday, I started thinking deeply that probably, for me, it's about time to start expanding the horizon. There is the regional issues and the global issues. We're beginning to attract a lot of funding from the global ecosystem. How well we are placed. Now, many of us probably have heard, oh, Kenya is doing very well in mobilizing foreign direct investment for startups. Good. And so we organized one event late last year, and we had conversations because young people strongly feel there is no money. Now, it doesn't seem to add up. Funders are saying there's a hell lot of money, and the innovators are saying there is no money. And we came to discover the issue was that we're not understanding each other. I can't bring money and expect that I'll force it through your pocket. No, you have to actually claim it. So having the funds is one thing, and the ability to actually tap into those resources is a different thing. And so in our movement thinking, Ghana, Kenya, we've got to think from the individual level and the realities of the individual and how we connect with the rest of the globe across many parameters of infrastructure, funding, culture, traditions, and so on and so forth. Next. So, in terms of closing this research industry gap, we've been doing a number of initiatives, a range of initiatives, and I'm going to try and demonstrate 5 of them, very practical, wide-scale initiatives that have the potential to impact a lot of people. The first one, next please. Yeah, so it's about measuring, and I do not know how much work we are doing here. In terms of measuring, the capacity of the institutions that we're talking about. Remember, I spoke about individuals, institutions, national, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to demonstrate one that is more institutional. You see, if we can't measure our capacity to commercialize, then we can't improve our systems of commercialization, or we will have a hard time. So we designed something we call the Entrepreneur Institution Maturity Framework. It's a way of trying to figure out whether our institutions are becoming any better. Because if the institutions don't succeed, I promise you, we're going nowhere. Until we build strong cultures and systems in our institutions, we ain't going nowhere. So we designed a structured, safe model to support universities to evolve into world-class. Remember, I had that big frame there. Dynamic hubs of innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, I use the word safe. Why? Because I have been an academic before, and if there's one thing I don't like, is to be compared with someone else. Is to be ranked, is to be evaluated. I know it. Academics, I know some of us are here. So what we have to design is something that is really safe. And I'll demonstrate to you how it makes you comfortable and makes you want to move forward. Next, please. So we designed this model, and we have several parameters that we look at. Let's start with leadership. If I meet a vice chancellor today of an amazing university in Ghana, I try to figure out the vision, the strategic alignment, the aspirations, the energy of that leader. That significantly influences whether that researcher in the institution will commercialize their output. Funding systems that we have created, whether they are grants, commercialization grants, or seed funding, and so on and so forth. The infrastructure, whether there will be fab labs, or there will be incubation hubs, or there will be technology transfer systems, and so on and so forth. Be it human capital, the incentives, the culture, the mindset. There's one individual I met who told me, I am an academic, but it is not my responsibility to commercialize. End of story. Mine is to teach and evaluate students. Then linkages that we build, the entrepreneur education. The other day I had a question, and I asked myself, and I will ask the same question here. In the entrepreneurship education of your own institution, do you think we are building people to get a grade, or are we building people to become founders, or are we building people to create SMEs? How many of us think that we are actually building people to get a grade? Okay, I don't need to ask part B. Okay? So what's the purpose of entrepreneurship education? And this is a measure. Lastly is around policies and strategies. On the next slide, please. Out of all these indicators, we've got about 7 constructs, and we have about 30 or so indicators that we will measure. We evaluate an institution and arrive at any of these 5 categories. It will either be a traditional research institution, academic institution, or it will end up being a world-class entrepreneur institution. Now, if you're here and you would like to raise your hand, your institution is a world-class entrepreneur institution, please do. If you want to say, I know one institution that is a basic research and teaching institution, please raise up your hand. Okay, you know, there's nothing wrong in being this. The important point is which direction are we going and at what rate, okay? Now we've tested this with 14 universities, and it's really amazing. I would ask the same question, and most of the vice chancellors would tell me they belong somewhere number 4 and 5. But after we do a range of self-evaluation and peer evaluation, most of them ended up in level 2. Now everyone then stood up and said, I truly agree, because there's empirical evidence. Now, this is what I'm going to do so that then we move to the next level. Next, please. So this is how we do it. You start with this maturity framework, have lots and lots of engagements with institutional leaders, and then build a master plan that enables you to determine specifically what you're going to work on over time and continuously improve. We start with a self-evaluation, move to a peer evaluation, and then we validate the work and generate a report. And then on the basis of this master plan, we start working and develop a monitoring and evaluation mechanism that then improves your performance as an institution going forward. Next slide, please. So some of the outcomes that we've seen as a result is strong sense of ownership. 2, highest level steering. 3, mainstreaming at institutional level. That means that's ownership, and it's becoming sticky. In terms of impact, what we are looking more and more is enhanced entrepreneurship ecosystem at institutional level, and then we aggregate that to the national level. Effective strategic decision making, and I have seen institutional leaders begin to make very strategic decisions as a result of this. Global competitiveness, we then hope that the country becomes more and more competitive. Next slide, please. Next. Okay, so I want to talk about another, we have several examples, but I'm going to talk about something a little more individual now. As a second intervention, entrepreneurship leadership, entrepreneurial leadership. I did not say entrepreneurship. I did not say entrepreneur. I simply say entrepreneurial leadership. That's the ability for me to create an environment that makes you easily identify opportunities and exploit them. And I facilitate your ability to exploit them. Then I am an entrepreneurial leader. And for me, if our institutions will not be at the core of the national system of innovation, then commercialization is not going to thrive. And so we've got to invest, and it doesn't take 2 days, 1 month, 1 year. It takes time to build this kind of spirit at institutional level. And so we designed an entrepreneurship leadership training program. And we focus on who? Institutional leaders. Anybody knows of a university where vice chancellors go to learn how to become vice chancellors? Please raise up your hand. There is no school to become a vice chancellor. People become vice chancellors and then they learn on the job. Then it is not fair to expect lots of commercialization because we didn't design it that way. There was no training. You walk in and in the first day you start making certain decisions. And so we designed this kind of a framework that enables people to go through a year-long program of building their entrepreneurial leadership capacity. And I would say it has paid off. It includes spending 1 week in another country that seems to be doing a lot better than you are. And with that, you build more and more confidence. Next slide, please. So this speaks to the nature of program, because at the end of the day, what you want is people to make certain commitments that are very, very informed. And this is how our innovation master plan comes into existence. Next slide, please. This is the second initiative. How many of us have had R2C? Research to commercialization. Okay, so a number of us in the room know about this program. About maybe 2.5 years ago, we started this initiative. And this was about identifying meaningful research projects in institutions, work with those individuals in building their capacities so that they could possibly create commercial value out of these ideas. It started off like something that people didn't believe, but in a little while, we've got an amazing set of results. We've worked with lots and lots of individuals across the country from the many institutions that we are closely working with. And in over 1.5 years or so, there is significant funding that has been raised and funding that has been allocated to institutions or by institutions making decisions to allocate funding in their own innovation efforts. And when institution leaders go through the training programs, then they make a lot better informed decisions. About 535,000 USD been allocated by institutions. The startups have raised more than 1.6 million USD over time, and these are all academic startups. They are research-based innovations. Lots of training has happened. We started with nothing. It sounded ridiculous, but it's skilling. It's significantly skilling, and not only in Kenya, but spread across several other countries. Next slide, please. The other one is more individual, and it's about research commercialization. Or rather, it's the same. I was talking about research commercialization, should not have been number 3. But where do we want to go with the research commercialization efforts? We've demonstrated it works. We have enterprises that have emerged out of this kind of work. And our goal is that over the next couple of years, we'd like to mainstream these in institutions so they run for themselves. We are supporting them at this point in time, but we've got to diffuse it into institutions. And I start thinking more and more about what happens in the cross of Africa. As we say, yes, we are trying to build powerhouses, but we've got to translate this kind of initiatives with the right mindset and support in our institutions for us to see lots and lots of results. We are also thinking global, building lots of partnerships and agreements that then support the kind of work we do. When you think about funding, there is a lot of funding from elsewhere. And how do you tap it? Next slide, please. So this is my second last one. We have some national interventions, and one of the programs we are working on now is the Technology Transfer Office as a service. We know that not all institutions will succeed in setting up their own technology transfer systems, but we can create shared infrastructure. And we are now at an advanced stage of rolling out this initiative. We've done some hiring, we're doing some capacity building, and we're going to be piloting this year. We've also built the Kenya Network of Entrepreneurial Institutions. One of the things that we found super powerful is when institutional leaders speak to each other, when they speak to each other. It's not enough to speak to them, but when they feel that they need to speak to each other and they're empowered to speak to each other, it works out well. And we've mobilized some financial support to support this kind of engagement, and that is transforming the way leadership operates and influences the national system. The last slide, or the last initiative, which is, next slide, please. Is the Innovation Agencies in Africa Network. So recently, late last year, we got a few partners and pulled resources together to set up a network, a Pan-African network of innovation agencies. Because what we succeed to do in Kenya, and we can pull together with others, we can achieve a lot more for the region. Remember, I said we've got the regional issues. There is a capacity building issue that we're going to be providing, leveraging the network, that currently is going to be hosted in Kenya. So far, about 15 members have expressed interest across Africa. And there's content on this on the website. Policy issues across Africa, harmonizing as many efforts as possible, and improving access to market for many of our innovations. Second last slide, which is this. So far, we've had many meetings around this network, and I think it is something that will be very useful for us as we pull together as countries. Last slide. So I'll conclude by saying again that to navigate the challenges that we've got, we need movements that are going to be by informed people, determined people, disruptive people who are bold and who will continue to act and intervene within circles of influence. And in conclusion, we are the architects of our institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our last submission for this opening part of our two-day summit will be delivered by the Director, ICT, Ministry of Communications and Digital Technology, in the person of Bishop Dr. Samuel Intwichichi, who is speaking on behalf of the Honorable Minister, Sam George.
I'm sure we're in the afternoon now, so it's no more good morning, and so it's good afternoon. So good afternoon, distinguished guests, esteemed researchers, industry leaders, policymakers, innovators, and development partners. These are not my words. I'm speaking on behalf of the minister. It is an honor to address you today at the Research and Innovation Commercialization Summit. 2025. This gathering is a testament to our shared commitment to leveraging research, innovation, and industrial transformation for Africa progress. I commend Heritage Lab, the Research Innovation System for Africa Fund, and all stakeholders whose collaboration has made this summit possible. Your dedication to advancing science, technology, and innovation across Africa is commendable. I recognize that the inaugural summit was held in February last year, right? This year's event took place at a pivotal movement as a new government transition into leadership. Our administration understands that research and innovation are fundamental to tackling Africa's challenges and driving sustainable development. Technology and innovations are the engines that will propel Africa towards a more prosperous and self-sufficient future. I am particularly excited to speak on this year's theme, Ghana's vision for innovation, pioneering collaborations, ecosystems for co-creation and trade across Africa. Ghana's vision for research and innovation is anchored in the belief that innovation is the cornerstone of economic growth and sustainable development. Our government is committed to fostering an environment where creativity and technological advancement thrives. Across Ghana, we see daily examples of innovations, teachers, farmers using indigenous techniques to boost yields, and artisans creating remarkable works with limited resources. Yet, many of these innovations remain underdeveloped due to lack of coordinated support. Ladies and gentlemen, this must change. This must change. Under the theme, From Labs to Markets, Ghana is committed to transforming innovation into economic opportunities, driving job creation, empowering youth, and fueling African growth. Africa is at a critical juncture. Across the continent, groundbreaking ideas emerge from our labs and innovation hubs, but often fail to reach commercial viability due to weak support systems and limited collaborations. Ghana envisions a future where collaborative ecosystems bridge this gap, ensuring the research translates into market success, co-creation flourishes, and intra-African trade expands. Our government is determined to position Ghana as a hub for innovation, technology-driven trade on the continent. To strengthen Ghana's innovation ecosystem, the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation is spearheading the Ghana Innovation and Startup Bill. Once passed by Parliament, this legislation will establish the Ghana Innovation and Startup Agency, which will regulate innovation activities and provide structured incentive framework for startups. Support in this area will focus on promoting creativity and technological adoption among startups, ensuring they remain competitive within the region and globally. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the 24-hour economy policy, the government flagship policy, the flagship policy of the government will further drive productivity, create diverse employment opportunities, and transform Ghana into innovation powerhouse operating around the clock. Our commitment to job creation and youth empowerment remain unwavering. Through the 1 Million Coders program, we plan to train 1 million young Ghanaians in software engineering, web development, blockchain, AI, Internet of Things, and other technical skills. This program aims to equip Ghanaian youth with critical digital skills, preparing them for the opportunities in the global digital economy. Additionally, the National Apprenticeship Program will provide free technical and vocational training, certification, and startup capital, empowering youth innovators to become self-sufficient entrepreneurs. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for too long, Africa has exported raw materials and imported finished goods. Ghana's strategy is to reclaim control of our value chain through research and innovation. We envisage Ghanaians' agri-tech solutions scaling in Lagos, digital platform excelling in Nairobi, and fintech innovation thriving in Johannesburg. To achieve this, we must prioritize three key things. One, think continentally. Design innovations that transcend Ghana's borders and serve the entire African market. Two, integrating high-value production, embedding research into manufacturing, particularly in agri-tech, digital technology, and green energy. Three, fostering African collaboration, that is strengthening partnership that drive technology transfer and facilitate trade. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government is implementing strategy to support this shift. We are enhancing industrial academia collaboration to drive demand-led innovation, ensuring intellectual property protection for our innovators, and providing targeted research grants and tax innovative for R&D invests, such as AI, blockchain, etc., are being leveraged to accelerate commercialization. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I urge all of you to actively participate in discussions, share insight, and collaborate on how we can bridge this gap from research to market scale up. Let us turn our challenges into opportunities and our ideas tangible solutions that drives African transformation. I wish you all a fruitful summit. Thank you very much. These are the words of the Honorable Sam George. Thank you.
Excellently done. Thank you so much, Bishop, for delivering the Honorable Minister's speech. May I kindly have our hands to move the podium kindly. We move to the end of the opening ceremony, and we are yes, please, sir. And we're doing this with a presentation of the evidence report. First of all, to you, Dr. Wanza, please. This essentially highlights the cross-border engagement between Ghana and Kenya, and then we'll also be handing the report over to AGI as well. So may I kindly have our special speakers who have been on stage already kindly grace us with your presence on stage. I would also like to kindly call Colonel Apayao, who is a representative of the Ministry of Defense, joining us today. So our special speakers, or our VIP speakers, if I may kindly ask all of you to join us on stage. May I also have the Arics Strategic Board members here present, and may I kindly ask our partners who have graced us a riser fund, please join us on stage for this monumental presentation of the report. Over to you, Barbara.
Yes, so I'd like to call on the Vice President of Heritage Labs to join me up on stage as we celebrate this landmark occasion. Okay. Dr. Theophilus, Mr. Christopher, Prof. Charles Toto. I know all of you, please join me. Advisor team from Kenya, please join. Please join. So we'll present the Innovation Trust Corridor Evidence Report to you. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, please join us in giving a round of applause. And then we'll present another evidence report to Dr. Amwanza. Okay. We have several of them, just for logistics purposes. Partnerships with the Kenyan Innovation Agency. So this also marks that occasion. So then after we'll do, photos. So then after we'll do a group photo, then we'll head over to our coffee break. So Mr. Kofi Oklu, you can be here. I'll just stand by the gentleman in white, Dr. Tessa, and then we do the group photo. Oh, yes. You see you. Mixed up with the men. Gender balance. Phyllis, you can come here. Okie dokie. That's me, I'm in between. Okay, so let's just do. Photographer, we are almost done, isn't it? All right, thank you so much for joining. I'll hand over to Madam Anita to take over.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. You may now take your seats. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the opening ceremony of Arics 2025, which also brings us to the beginning of the actual interaction, the engagement, the workshops that are about to happen. But we're going to give you a short, quick coffee break of 10 minutes. With due respect, if you can come back to the auditorium in 10 minutes. Barbara, what time will that be? Kindly. We restart 12:40. Kindly be back in the auditorium by 12:40 when we actually start the topics and the engagements. May I kindly have my ushers, please usher the VIPs to the lounge for us, kindly. Ushers, wonderful ushers, please usher the VIPs to the lounge. And for all of us, coffee is served around the pool table. Washrooms are also to the back of the exhibition. Kindly be back in the auditorium at 12:40 as we shift gears into the workshop and the engagements. Thank you very much.
Yeah. One. One. C. One. C. Yeah. 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 IT. Yeah. One T.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm still waiting for us to settle down and this man to stop moving. There's still a bit of noise at the back. Kindly at the back, let's just settle down. I know we're hungry, now we're well fed. Would still want to have a meaningful conversation. Okay, thank you very much. I want to invite you to join us in this panel discussion that is talking about accelerating Africa's industrial transformation, the role of advanced manufacturing, innovation, and market integration. And with me, I'm going to invite my panelists. I'll start with my friend, Dr. Tessa. Kindly join us. Big round of applause. Let's appreciate Dr. Tessa. Thank you very much. I'd like to call on stage Professor Charles Toto, Director of Food Research and Institute. Welcome. And last but not least, we'd like to invite Dr. Shonam Akpelo. I had to practice saying that name. You're welcome. All right. So, thank you very, very much for joining us. We'd just like to start with a round of introduction. I hope all your mics are working. So my name is Maureen Ochako. I like to introduce myself as a commercialization entrepreneurial enthusiast trying to drive the Africa Agenda Matters innovation and innovation ecosystem. And my theme for this year is really transforming Africa. So thank you very much. I'd like for you to introduce yourself and maybe answer the question, why do you want to accelerate industry transformation?
Thank you very much, moderator. And I'm Professor Charles Toto. I'm the director, CSI Food Research Institute. And our core mandate is to see to the arrival of value-added products on all our crops that we have within the country and create businesses in the food sector. So SMEs, your home of technology when it comes to innovation on food value products, is my institute, CSI Food Research Institute. Thank you. Yes, moderator, you also did mention about accelerating development in terms of innovation in Africa, and with particular reference to Ghana. Yes, we do agree to that because we believe that with accelerating when it comes to development of the various things that we do, we need to have a focus. Number one, we need to address the issue of technology. So we ask ourselves, our technological institutions, our universities, do we have the technology? Can we leverage when industry approaches for various technologies for development? Yes, we have done a lot of technology, which is now time for accelerating, leveraging into the SME space. And that is why we are saying that we need that partnership between the research, the universities, and the SMEs. And therefore, we encourage everyone who is interested or a little focused to see how best we can move into the space of SMEs, whereby this technology will still not be with us, the researchers, but then it will be with you, the SMEs. And that is where we are saying that it's time we leverage and move the technologies onto the open floor, where SMEs can be created in terms of the food industry, in terms of other industries that we are talking about this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that introduction. You know, there's a saying that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, we go together. So thank you for bringing that up. I'll allow Dr. Testa to introduce himself and answer the same question. Thank you.
Ask the question again. Please ask
The question. Akpelo.
Please ask the question again.
I want to you to introduce yourself and answer why we need to accelerate industry transformation in your context.
Okay, thank you. My name is Chonam Akpelo, and I work for Suku Technologies. It's a tech firm here based in Rich, Accra. But I'm here because I also chair the Association of Ghana Industries for the Greater Accra region. Please allow me to give some little historical perspective to all of these conversations, because if you follow the history of Africa or the history of Ghana, you realize that the whole independence struggle we've had, the focus has been political independence, and the educational system at the time was built for the purpose of training civil servants and all employees to support the political establishment. So indeed, it's been an inheritance from the colonial system. And so our schools were not necessarily designed to produce innovators or entrepreneurs and so on and so forth. We were just to be good enough to be great employees and farmers and civil servants and so on. So that's have been affecting the way we develop entrepreneurship and innovation up to today. What it means is that the tax available for us is bigger than it would appear, because now we have to redesign our system to align innovation, academic work, and industry. There has always been that significant disconnect between industry and academia. On one hand, academia is very clear. Their job is to train students, mainly to memorize content, reproduce the content, secure grades, dance on graduation, have degrees, apply for jobs, secure job, mainly routine jobs and so on, and have a good living. Industry, on the other hand, is complaining bitterly that the skill sets available in the market are not fit for purpose. I see it in AGI, where a major concern of most of my members are that we're unable to attract the skills required to produce in our factories. Even me, most of my sophisticated assignments in my company, in my technology company, I have to outsource to my folks in India. Not because I cannot get Ghanaians to do it, but because it's more simpler, cheaper, effective, and efficient. The issue now is, how can we resolve this issue to ensure that the graduates we are producing from the schools are equipped with the needed skills to produce in real time and be more efficient and effective? That is really the issue. Now, if you follow the whole narrative conversation, you see that we are not doing a lot of work in bringing all of us together to understand the challenge and to provide solutions. We talk about it, we meet like forum like this and discuss, but it's actually very difficult to practicalize the conversation. And this is also because of the historical antecedent that I have described earlier. What we need to do now is to reset. No, sorry, reset is a political word. I won't use it. It's to start all over again and rethink the whole concept of merging innovations and academia and research work. The researcher in Legon or the researcher in University of Nairobi and so on, what is informing their research? Do they really understand the challenge that industry is facing? Have any of these academic or students come around to talk to me in AGI and say, what exactly is your problem? You know, I spent time reading a lot of the research reports that the university produce, and it's unfortunate to see that most of them are not fit for our use in industry. And I'm saying these are the realities. So, for example, if you're in business school at the University of Ghana, my expectations would be that you should take, let's say, Zoomlion or Siawa Japan. Siawa Japan has over 80 companies, Zoomlion, Jospong, all of that. And research that model and see, okay, the model where somebody is having 80 companies and every year he's adding new ones and so on. What type of model is that? And allow us to learn about it and use that learning to establish a system that works for us. But you see that most of the research that comes around are really actually focused on a Western style kind of research, and then of course they get the degrees and so on. But what I'm saying is that it's a great time to really come together in real terms and work together to ensure that we achieve the result. It is possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I withdraw the word it is possible, please.
It is possible. Thank you very much for setting that precedent. And I think that's the role of why we're sitting here today. We're saying we want to commercialize this research, but do we have what it takes? Do we have the right policies? Do we have the funding? Do we have the skill set? Are our mindset thinking about commercialization? What about the industry? What are the barriers? Are we resolving those barriers? So I think to just answer that question, I'm also going to call Prof. Charles and ask him, what must the government do? What must, and I'm using the word must intentionally, what must the stakeholders do to ensure that we're transforming the industries?
Thank you very much, moderator. The government has a unique role to play because in the first place, we all do agree that industry will be the engine of growth of our economy. We agree to that. Therefore, the government has a pivotal role to play in that transfer of their research to industry. For example, we need startups. We have technologies. We have people, skills that have been transferred to a lot of these people. We need startups. Startups does not come without cost. For example, we have transferred a processing technology to individuals to set up. They need infrastructure. They need equipment. They need money to start. They can't start without funds. So the government's position is to create a fund that will say that all startups, depending on your business plan and how well it is structured, and your consultants to support you to set up, come for this fund and take it off. These activities will see to various startups within our communities and our country, so that at the end of the day, startups that were on paper can materialize and we can take them off. That is the first one. The second angle is also for the larger industries to also come on board. If they can also contribute to some of these unique research activities that they are looking for solutions to, Then they can also support with funds for unique startups and also to support some of the existing industries so that they can expand, they can acquire the equipment, they will have the capital to roll over their production processes. Also, opportunity to create linkages for markets. Because when you produce, you need a unique market to sell. Either the internal markets, the regional markets, the international markets. All these are unique markets of which we can tap in. But if you don't have the linkages, then there is a challenge. So we need that support from the government, from the industry, to also have access to that. Access to capital, access to market linkages, access to the skills also, so that more technology, because innovation is building on what exists. New ideas, building on it, so that we can create more innovation into our system. So the more we create, the more we need to transfer them. That is why we are now advocating that there must be a holistic linkage between the research and the industrial partners. And anyone who wants to move into industry, we must have that leverage, that linkage, and support them to reach that. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much. Let's appreciate that hymn. And as you were speaking, I was also reflecting on the context for Kenya, you know, and earlier on, Dr. Tony presented the maturity framework, and you did mention linkages, you also mentioned human capital, you also mentioned funding. So those are the three things, according to you, that the government must do to ensure that this research is being commercialized. So thank you very much. Again, we go to Dr. Tessa. How is the situation in Nigeria? What is the government doing to support innovation, commercialization, and manufacturing?
Oh, well, thank you very much, Maureen. Dr. Tony, in his presentation, said, having a fund is one thing, and the ability to keep to tap into is another. When you speak innovation across Nigeria, I dare say across most of Africa, they will tell you that there's funding. But just like in Kenya, we have also noticed that there is so much money in Nigeria with regards innovation or enterprise development, and none is still getting to the last mile. It's not just an issue. We innovate, not able to access the funds. But sometimes there are also aspects that challenge those processes from the government. So concepts are well taught, policies are well that, but implementation is not a challenge. In recent times, over the last 10 years, we have seen $5 million creative industry expansion fund. We have seen $200 million fund in the agricultural transformation. We have seen almost $1 trillion in intervention around rice and processing, cropping up, a whole lot of keep reading them. Most times, implementation of this fund is by development banks or by specialized agencies of government. But it has always been a challenge that the last mile does not access this fund. From the government side, apart from the popular notion about there will be interest flying there, you have to know someone, somebody who recommend you. That also exists. But on the more empirical side, from the government side, what we observe is a complete lack of data. So access to real data on who are the real actors and what they are doing and where they are situated and how they are succeeding so far. What kind of support they need is usually absent. So what we expect, there will be But on the other hand, we also have entrepreneurs, innovators that do not actually know the kind of money they want. How invested really are you as a startup business or as an existing business? That's what I'm saying. So you then the entire process takes also access these funds. So most times when I have a chance to meet with stakeholders within this ecosystem, I always say money will not be a problem. But do you know the kind of money you want to access and what it will do for you? And on the government side, do we know the kind of issues they can give money to? So platforms like Arics provide a very technical opportunity for government to identify and map those that are acting in the real sector exactly what we are doing, how that support systems that should be put in place for them to be able to thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. And we go to AGI. What exactly is AGI doing to enable industries, to enable that research that is coming from university, be implemented and integrated into the manufacturing ecosystem? And if there are policies, do you believe the policies are enabling or hindering?
Well, okay, thank you. So let me clear the real status of AGI. AGI is a non-profit, it's non-government. We're just a group of industrialists and business people. For commercialization of innovations and research findings, I have a different view of all of these. For any commercial enterprise to succeed, it will take that leader, that entrepreneur, that individual to spearhead and lead it. So if you follow history about most of the very successful innovations and businesses we've had throughout the world, it would normally have that one person who would normally start it, go through the mill, establish it properly before checking out or bringing in other people. Now, the dilemma is this. So you've got very successful innovative findings and research work, great ideas that need to be commercialized. But the folks spearheading these innovations must survive, right? So they will have everything done, probably leave it at the university or leave it at the research center, and then move on to go and look for work somewhere and do, because they need to survive. Then by the time somebody else is taking it up, it will not receive the same attention, passion, and energy it required to make it happen. So for me, that's one of the first major challenges that we need to deal with. The challenge of ensuring that innovations are taken from the person who is leading it all the way to market. And in fact, if you are that passionate, you will be able to attract the funding and so on. I'll give classic example. My brother, I'm sure a lot of people here know him, Andrews Agleke. So Andrews went to Harvard, identified an idea. By the time he was done with his PhD, he's already ready with a whole blueprint of what the innovation that he would like to execute. You know, he started teaching in Harvard, but he got tired teaching. He resigned. He came to Accra. He set up Senna Institute, and Senna Institute is currently pioneering some of the greatest innovations anywhere in the world. I mean, he's at the verge of a major breakthrough in cancer and in fibroid. This is a classic example of somebody who would have started doing a research from an university and then continuing to lead it. Now he's running, he's commercializing it, and he's making a lot of money. My view is that we have to begin to take some of this approach and work with them. Yes, there are fundings. There are several fundings that I'm aware of, both nationally and internationally. But the requirements of these fundings are so stringent that it's almost impossible to assess it if you don't have that level 3 years audited report. You are not, you don't have folks that are all of them this professorial title and all of that. And so there's that mismatch that the people who really need the funding to move the ideas, don't have the necessary requirements to meet it. So what needs to happen is for government and other policy agencies to create a tailor-made financing for some of these ideas. AGI has been at the forefront of pushing for some of these financing. So we've established several relationships with the scientific community and with many other agencies to ensure that we promote some of this funding, some of these innovative ideas. But the challenge has been that most times you start well, and then along the line, interest, get, diluted over time, and then things don't get to the end. The issue is, how can we begin to work towards ensuring that most of these ideas get to the end and receive the needed funding and the needed legal backing? And this is where we believe that government, being the biggest stakeholder, should come in a big way with the big resources, prioritize innovation financing, prioritize research and academia and industry collaboration in a way that is attractive, so that as businessman, I will look at the budget, the national budget, and say, there's an opportunity here, let me go and support this. So really, this is what we're looking forward to doing.
Thank you. I'm hearing, a lot of linkages. I'm hearing a lot of funding. And I'm wondering, on the other side, the enterprises, what are some of the incentives that they're expecting? And this is a question that any of the panelists can answer. So in addition to the funding, yes, we have provided funding. What else do we feel the manufacturing companies would benefit from, or what would incentivize them to support this research to be commercialized?
Great. As I said, innovation, we are always coming up with new ideas. So the industries, your technology will become old if you keep staying. Therefore, you need to support so that you can always be on track with new innovation, new ideas that will enhance your efficiency and even improve on your profits. So industry must not fold the arms. They must also come into the support of the research that we're talking about. Some of the research can be a bottom-up approach where it will be a challenge within the industry of which the research or the university is picking up to research into and bring back the solution to the industry. So we will not say the industry should be idle. They should also support, contribute to these innovations so that they can leverage and improve upon the new innovations that are coming to them. Thank you very much.
Also not our reality. The big guys constitute less than 1%
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll begin by saying that we would like to see taxation to be used as an incentive of promoting innovation and industry academia collaboration. If part of the biggest challenge of industry complaint on a daily basis has been taxation, several taxes we have to deal with. About 70% of all the raw materials we use are imported. And the import duties that we pay are so huge, so much so that most of our factories are unable to make profit. If governments bring an incentive to say that if you are going this path of adapting this innovation or this research work, you are going to receive this percentage of tax cuts, I can guarantee you it will be a big win for most of these industries, and they will come on board fully. So we should certainly use taxation as a mechanism of promoting this. We also need to harmonize the different laws and policies, because laws and policies must be designed to promote this environment. It has to be very deliberate. We must have a group of people sitting in a room thinking through and ensuring that the laws work in our favor. It is also important to mention that in this day and age of technology, we have to use technology a lot in promoting innovation. There's also another issue around infrastructure. If you travel around the continent of Africa, most parts lack significant and critical infrastructure for takeoff. We need to build infrastructure around power. We need a lot of renewable energy to power our factories and industry and power innovation. All of this must be done in order to ensure that we achieve the desired outcome that we've been talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's good that you brought the issues of the tax incentives. I think that's what I was looking for. Are we going to talk about the tax incentives? Are we going to talk about the special economic zone? When you think wholesomely, not just as a country, there's some of the components that we need to respond to allow for free trade across Africa. And of course, the conversation is pinned around the African Continental Free Trade Area, and that's how we're coming to speak. We have different representatives from different countries here. And so I'm being told that we need to be wrapping up. I will ask maybe one final question to all of us. Given that we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area that will allow innovations, enterprises, ventures to cross the borders, right? It's very new, it's very nascent, but I want you to paint for us a picture of what it would ideally look like 2063, 20 years from today. If you were to just reflect and say, if I am to draw a picture, this is what I want for Africa. It's not for Nigeria, it's not for Ghana, it's not for Kenya. What is it that I want to see 20 years? You can, okay.
Trading amongst ourselves, we will now be competitive enough to trade across
Good. If I may add on to what he said. To me, I believe that the AFTA is one good thing that has happened to Africa because it's able to bring down the barriers for us to trade. And the key thing AFTA is looking for is the products across the countries. And that is one thing we must tap into. Now the question we ask ourselves individually from the various countries is that what do I have to trade to my next country, to trade across the borders? That is the key thing. So now it comes back to us. What are we putting down as industries to create the products that will travel across the borders? So we have to now reflect and see the businesses we are creating, of which we can get the value-added products that will travel across the borders. So when you are not able to have such businesses that will come with products that will be transferred across borders, then you have a challenge as a country. So we have to now look within and create those businesses. And that comes with the opportunity of startups, new technologies, new innovation, putting groups together and supporting them financially to take off with the idea into businesses, into SMEs. We are not talking about the big ones. We are talking about the small, medium-scale enterprises, the micro enterprises. These will form the basis for us to have the value-added products to cross the borders. Because the borders by AFTA are now opened. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you.
Well, the issue of AFTA, the AFTA conversation is a big one. I have to be very careful now what I say because I've just been elected as the chair for trade and industry for African Union's Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. So I'm very deep inside and I have to be
And we're listening and watching.
Yes. So it's a great initiative by all standard. But the reality is that there are only very few countries with the capability to produce and sell outside their country. Okay, so in West Africa, I'll probably mention Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria. But if you go to most of the other countries, Sierra Leone, Liberia, they are just consumers, unfortunately. So if you're developing a Pan-African trade and industrial policy to benefit everyone, for me, it doesn't appear that we're going to achieve that. It would rather create giants where they would produce and dump on everybody else. It would require that countries take quick measures to begin to trade in a way that they can take advantage of it. Because the challenge is the smaller countries risk becoming dumping grounds. As I mentioned earlier on, taxes and levies and port duties remain a major component of doing business. And so if somebody is saying they can liberalize our dutiable goods and services to up to 90%, that's a big deal. I can imagine that a lot of companies with the capabilities will take advantage of it naturally. Now, the people who are winning are big companies already doing business. So the Casaprecos of the days, the Dangote and so on. They would have succeeded already anyway. But I'm not sure that the intention of this AFTA is to focus on only the big companies. My view is that they want the SMEs, which constitute about 80% of the business landscape in Africa, to benefit. But I'm saying the architecture of the AFTA may not support that whole narrative of having SMEs, participating effectively. I mean, imagine if Auntie Mumi share butter business in Tamale wanting to sell her shea butter in Nairobi. That's a great idea, but it's almost impossible. But I'm saying these are the realities. But the intention of the program is to have Auntie Moni share butter to sell shea butters in Nairobi. So the question is, how are we creating the needed environment and infrastructure to support here in Tamale to be able to sell and take advantage of the duty-free, quota-free regime to export to Nairobi? That's where I think that we have to do a lot of work, both at the national level and also at the private sector level. Another major issue I'll talk about has to do with issue around free movement of people and goods. So yes, you're saying that the goods should move freely, but human beings can't move freely. There's something wrong somewhere. Somebody is not properly discussing this well. Seriously. Guys, let's face it. I travel around a lot on the continent. I've probably been to every African country. Every 3 months I have to go for a new passport. Because every country, they have to put visa and, it's so hard. In fact, even if you carry the African Union diplomatic passport, there was a time I was stuck in Equatorial Guinea. They don't know what it is. You say, guy, go back. Go. So I'm saying this is the reality. But if I can't move, how can I trade? So what I see is that, yes, every president will come to AU and ratify the agreement and agree and be happy. In the evening they'll have a dinner, the jamboree, they will dance and they will sing Mandela songs and all of that. But the reality is that they are all protective of their territory and their power base. But you have to be prepared to lose something for the common good of the continent. Are our leaders ready to give up some of their power? Because it's also a power issue, right? You're liberalizing. So what it means is that the taxes that you would have been collecting, the Liberian government, that huge, look at their budget. 40% is coming from import duties. Then you're saying we should liberalize it. Really?
Thank you.
So I'm saying that these are the realities that we have to think about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just to wrap up the conversation, I think we've discussed really about the policies. We've discussed about the linkages. We've also discussed about the structure, the human capital, the free trade, and how it is important to have a leader who's visionary to drive that champion. And just for us to finish the session, I would like us to stand and have everyone in the audience stand. I'm seeing the MC is already standing. I want us to make a commitment, so kindly let's all stand. And we are going to put our hand here to just say that we're making a pledge. And I'll just try that. I'll say it and then we'll repeat. I will do my part to make sure that I transform our African industry, manufacturing, and enabling commercialization. So let's do it again. I will do my part to transform the industries in Africa to enable manufacturing and industry commercialization. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. We are so far behind, but we're just going to keep going. We have a panel discussion now on artificial intelligence and machine learning opportunities for Africa. Mr. Elik Plim Sabla, Technical Advisor, GIZ, AI Policy. Where are you, sir? No, don't come. Wait. Why are you in a hurry? Relax. Ladies and gentlemen, do we have your attention? Who in this room is afraid of AI? When I say AI, you think it's really going to take over your life and you're going to be unemployed and you're not going to be known. Who's afraid of AI? Roland, put your hand down. You're not afraid of AI. You use it every day. Who is excited about AI? Good. Please give me 2 seconds. If you're excited about AI, put your hand up. You look like you rehearsed. No. I want to go to somebody who looks like, let me see, civil engineer. No, you know. Who is excited about AI? Hey! Now you put your hands out. No. Okay, let's be guided. You, sir, you just Google. I just saw you googling it. What is AI? Okay, who put their hand up? Who was it that put your? Okay, let me start off with you. Okay. For the purpose of this audience, assuming somebody has never heard about AI, what is it? Ayeka.
Enyaka. All right, so for the purposes of this gathering and talking to someone who has never heard about AI simply means using the computers we have to aid in our work, in our daily living, to make things simple. And for example, not going to the switch and then leaving the room, but the lights goes off. That's AI.
All right, one more person before I hand over to Mr. Sabla. You're excited about AI? Put your hand up for me. You're excited about, okay. You, sir, you tell us who you are, what you do, and tell us how you use AI in your everyday life.
All right. Justice William Sassari is the name. Justice William Sassari is my name. I'm a lecturer at Kofreda Technical University, the Computer Science Department. So when you talk of AI, it basically means artificial intelligence that mimic the human brain, or it simulates how human beings work. So naturally, it is, or by nature, it is the artificial way of how human beings works. So it mimics or it simulates our everyday life. So we can use it in medical field, engineering, and every section that human being can work. Just that it does perform work faster than what human beings does, and also it have a higher capability of storage than what human being also think. How do I use it every day? Okay, personally, I'm into clinical or medical disease diagnosis. So I train models that they can use to detect diseases like anemia, cardiovascular disease, melanoma, and so on and so forth.
All right. Oh, give him a round of applause. Okay. So we have broken down what it appears AI is, but I'll leave the conversation to the experts. Mr. Sabla, Technical Advisor, GIZ AI Policy, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, and a good afternoon to you all. And I would like to invite you to join our session. I will be talking specifically about artificial intelligence, and I won't be doing that alone. I have a whole panel of experts to do that with me. And I'd like to first start by introducing them, and then they'll probably do a longer introduction than I'm doing. So first of all is Mr. Walali Senyo, Country Manager of Farmerline. Please let's clap for him as he comes. Let's do that for all the speakers, right? The second panelist is Darlington Akogo, CEO of Mino Health and Kara Agro. The third panelist is Dr. Neil Ante, Country Director of Viamo. Right, we can sit in here, yeah. And our last panelist is Mr. Emmanuel Agbeve, CTO of ADEC Digital. All right. Welcome. All right. Okay, so thank you very much. And all right, so as was already mentioned, my name is Eli Plim Sabla, Technical Advisor at GIZ. Specifically, I'm working on the Fair Forward initiative, and we've been working in Ghana for the past 3 years, and we've been doing a lot of work in the ecosystem. Our focus areas are access to data, capacity building, and developing AI policy and regulatory frameworks and stuff like that. And because the AI ecosystem is budding, is growing, so most of the people on the panel are people I already know and probably have done some work with in the past. And I'm buzzing because I know there will be a lot that will be shared that would inspire your thoughts and also be of interest to you. So I'd like to start first from my right. Mr. Wolali Senyo, if you could just give us a brief introduction of yourself, and then especially Farmerline, just a line or two. We have a lot of things to discuss, so I would want us to make good use of time. So just a brief description of what you do at Farmerline.
Okay. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be on this panel. As you already mentioned, my name is Wolali Senyo. I work with Farmerline. We're an agtech company, and what we seek to do is to connect smallholder farmers across Africa with resources such as training them in good agronomic practices, helping finance them, and then connecting them to market. Now, the way we're going about this is to create a digital and physical marketplace that connects them to these partnerships and also resources. Over the past 12 years, we've been able to scale our innovations to over 50 countries, help to reach 2.2 million farmers across the continent, deploying in the order of $40 million worth of capital to support farmers. And we see considerable impact in the lives of smallholder farmers and also local agribusinesses who, for us, play a critical role in this ecosystem. And will be exciting, I'm sure, as we go forward in the role that AI is also playing in, scaling these innovations and supporting for better decision making. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Darlington, you can also do that.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Darlington Akogo, founder, CEO of Mino Health AI Labs, and then Kara Grow AI. With Mino Health, essentially, we are focused on developing or providing AI solutions in healthcare. We currently have a platform called Moremi AI. This is a general purpose AI system that supports everything from screening, diagnosis, treatment planning to prognosis, and the list goes on and on. We also do biology, so we use AI system to design new drugs. Then in Kara Grow AI, the focus is AI in agriculture. So we have projects like the one we have with GIZ Fair Forward, where we combine AI and drones to help with the detection of diseases and pests. But collectively, the goal is how do you leverage AI systems to improve productivity of farmers, especially on-farm productivity. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So next up is Dr. Nilante.
Yes, I'm Nilante Heward Mills, Country Director for Viamo in Ghana and Liberia. So Viamo stands for VIA Mobile. We believe that using the power of mobile phones, we should be able to reach the last mile in the language they understand, right? So we started in Ghana about 10 years ago, and we have country offices in about 25 countries. With regards to AI, we're working on AI for YAM phones, configured it successfully, and implemented it in Tanzania, Nigeria, India, and in the next quarter with UNICEF Ghana. On 5100, you dial it and you can interact with an AI on a feature phone. So just a snippet, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, we'll be delving much into that later on. So next up is Emmanuel Agbeve.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My name is Emmanuel Makafui Beve, and I'm the CTO for IDEC Digital. IDEC Digital, we are into software development. That's our main, activities. We've been building software for companies for some years now, and so we are well tested and known brand in the system. With regards to AI, yes, we currently built an ultra-modern lab, what we call AI Center of Excellence. And basically what we're doing currently is to go into research. And I believe that there are a lot of things that we are trying to churn out. And in due time, you'll begin to hear from us some of the things or some of the innovations that we've been bringing out. So currently, we will also be unveiling our BPO center which is basically to leverage on the AI talents that we are building in the AI Center. And also, we also have a platform called Africosity. Africosity is a learning management system, just like Udemy and Coursera, and we are leveraging on AI to make sure that it's efficient for users. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So even just by the introduction, you can tell the room is, the interest in the room specifically for this topic. And so I hope that we'll be doing it justice. My first question, or the first topic for us to discuss, is the fact that when it comes to issues regarding advancements and development, usually when we are talking about Africa, we are always pinpointing the challenges and the difficulties and then the shortfalls that we have. Specifically with artificial intelligence, if we were to spend the whole day listing the challenges that we have as Africans, for which reason we cannot leverage AI, we will not leave here today. So I want us to skip that and just look at the advantages, or what we do have, what are the positives that we have as Africans that can help us better leverage AI to also lead to socio-economic development in our countries. And so perhaps I just want to start with you, Darlington. What are some of the things that you think that are qualities that Africans have that are unique to us that will help us, be part of this AI race globally?
No, I'm glad that we are focusing on the opportunities and advantages. I mean, they exist in a number of ways. So fundamentally, AI systems are built around data. And the opportunity is that globally, African data makes just a tiny fraction of the data that is used to build, the popular AI solutions that we are all using, AK or EG, ChatGPT, and the rest. So the advantage here is that if you have African innovators leveraging this data, they could build something that is quite different from the existing AI system. So I'll give you a good example. In healthcare/biology, Africans are the most diverse group of people on the planet. Essentially, you can almost approximate all the biological diversity on the globe within Africa, because essentially, this is the birthplace of humanity. What that means is that hidden somewhere in our data is probably cures for cancer. It's probably understanding of how cancer works, understanding how certain infectious diseases spread, and all of that. So if you have an AI system that fundamentally, you still want to collect data from different parts of the world, but if you're truly leveraging data to understand the genomics, to understand the biological differences that exist in Africa, you could create an AI solution that would have possibly the greatest impact on human health. So it's not just that whatever we build here would have benefits in Africa, but it can have global benefits. So that's one of the theories that we built our AI system on. We collected data from different parts of the world, but we really focus on the fact that let's include as much health and biological data from Africa. And we're already seeing the benefit. Our AI system designed drugs, antibodies, vaccines, quite in a different way, and maybe possibly arguably better than the other AI systems created by big pharma companies that have way more resources. So we have very rich data that is heavily underexplored on the continent.
All right, thank you for that. Walali, I would like you to take a stab at the question. What are the opportunities for AI in Africa? What makes us unique in tapping into these opportunities?
So yeah, what just said, I see 3 areas focusing on agriculture. The first area is access to finance. With data, we can make better decisions. People are going to that most smaller companies now access to, banking services, where we are now seeing the proliferation of more money, combining that data with climate, with other data sources. We can better understand the credit risk that these smaller companies that will make it much easier for clients now to want to partner with them. Or open opportunities for tech users to provide data now in order for financial institutions to get capital. So that's one of the areas that we see as opening up for agreement, which is a big problem because we have a huge financing problem for agriculture. I think the second area is around improving
Thank you. Nilante, would you like to respond?
Yeah. So I would say, first off, not getting left behind. AI is still in its very nascent stages, very early stages, and it's an opportunity for young African talent to jump on the bandwagon. My co-panelists will tell you that there's no shortage of African talent. At Viamo, where I work, the head of engineering for an organization of 300 is Ghanaian. And a lot of the engineers who work on our AI models are Ghanaian. And Bolali will tell you same from Farmerline. So I think first off, the opportunity is there, right? The expertise is there. Also, if you look at the African population, the bulge is very youthful, right? So it means there's so much potential for the youth, for jobs, to express themselves, for democracy and whatnot. Finally, African solutions to African problems. If you ask ChatGPT a few questions about a healthy diet, it will tell you about spinach and and ham and a few things that you and I cannot relate. Yes. Also, if you try, well, I'll talk to that later, about AI in tree that sounds like a pastor, because all the learning it has learned is through preaching, right? So I think there's also the opportunity there to solve African problems by Africans. Yeah, thank you.
So Emmanuel, yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to start from where he ended it. You know, we need to localize our own, way of building AI systems and AI models. If you look at it, I mean, Darlington will tell you that, hey, most of the data, he has to source them out, okay? And that is a problem for us. I will take it from the field of education. There are a lot of opportunities that are waiting for us. And I believe that we need to harness these opportunities and make them great. There's something that I'm working on in terms of proposing a framework where AI should be used by students. Because these days, you see that schools are so hard. They say, don't use it. You should not be able to use it. What they're actually trying to build is basically to say that the students should go and steal and come and tell them that this is their own work. In fact, they will go and steal from AI and any other, report writing, systems, and produce that to the student. But why not develop a framework to show the student that this is how you can use AI? AI is more like a teacher. It's like a instructor or your lecturer. So if your lecturer is not giving you detailed information, you can get it from AI, right? Yeah, so there should be a framework where a student will be able to use that. So I think that there are huge opportunities, advantages that are, in the educational sector, whereas we deploy AI to make sure that we leverage on those.
Right, thank you very much. So Darlington made mention of data. I think Nilante also touched on it briefly. We are the Arics, and in the spirit of research, I know before AI systems are built, there's a lot of research that goes into it. Personally, we've worked on the same project as with Darlington. We've been in the field to collect data in cashew plantations. We've done stakeholder engagement and all of these things to ensure that the systems actually meet the needs of those who will be using it. So I would just want to understand specifically from your perspectives, what has been your experience regarding data collection? Now, what I'm trying to see here is Wolali has more agric, Darlington has agric and health, Nilante is more health, or you cut across, and you would be more education. So I just want you to give perspective, especially maybe Nilante, you can touch more on language because you have more experience with, I think you have the Viamo thing. So you can start with how you collected data to be able to build the system that you have.
Okay, so typically, some of the data we use like open data, we use ChatGPT and the like, but it works really for bigger languages, Swahili, English, French, but when you talk about Tree, Dagbani, Hausa, etc., then there's a big problem, right? So we work with local organizations like Ghana NLP, for instance, and what we do is they are more research-based and we are more practical industry. So we feed back what we learn back to them to say, hey, your tree is it's not speaking tree, and the like. But they've done excellent work. They are pushing the frontier on localizing AI into major African languages, not just in Ghana. But again, as I mentioned, you find that there isn't a lot of data for AI to learn local languages because it is not documented. The data that AI learned from was preaching from Otabil and from other pastors, but more so very local Bible-led content. So you start to speak to the AI and it sounds like an osofo. It is that the pitches are very high and very low, and it is, very powerful and this and that. So we have some way to go, but I find that the growth is geometric, right? And things can change within 6 months. So that being said, data is really hard to come by, but local organizations are working hard at it, and hopefully in the next 8 to 12 months, we should see significant strides. And this doesn't apply to just, say, languages, but other sorts of weather and education, governance, information. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. Data is very critical to artificial intelligence development. And so I just want all of us to make a commitment that when we do have access to data or we do participate in a project that collects data, let's also look at open sourcing it, making it available for others to use. Nilanti mentioned the Ghana NLP project and then the language data they've collected. The reason why it is accessible is because some part of it is open source that you can have access to. So let's also push for open source in data sets. So Emmanuel, you can also share on education.
Yes, so since we are into the education and we are also looking at the legal part as well, I can just talk briefly about some models that we are building, especially has to do with the legal space. Looking at the data from our judges, from our constitution, in terms of the acts that we have, various acts, and putting all those together to build a model is not an easy thing. I mean, even though there are platforms that are available, that you can get data from, but even how to get that is a problem. I think that led me to an issue that I wanted to talk about. I think it fits into the AI policy. Okay, I know probably you may come to that, but I don't want to link to this immediately. I think it was last year, Darlington was part of that. I read the entire, strategy that was put up for Ghana, AI strategy or national strategy. And as I'm asking myself, why are we not implementing that? It's still there. We're supposed to have AI office by now. I saw Mino have repeated like 11 times in that document. I took my time to read through the document. I was asking, why can't we implement that? Because they have about eight pillars. And one of the pillars that I love so well is that it says that the agencies, the Ghana, the government agencies will build a data pipelines where everybody can feed into. Do you know what opportunity or which opportunity that can bring to, startups or companies that are looking for data? I think there are a lot of startups and a lot of companies that are trying to, explore this space, but because of data. In fact, if you go into the building of these applications, building models, you will now understand what data is. It's because when they talk about data, we all hear it's data. But when you now begin to build the models, then you now understand really this is what I'm looking for. So without data, we are just, running around the place. So we need that so we can then open up the space and then know some very well.
Right. So we're going to talk about policy next. But since you brought up the Ghana National AI Strategy, Darlington was one of the key people we consulted. It was supported by Fair Forward, but led by the Ministry of Communication. So I can provide some insight on that. So the document is not adopted, and so what you found online was actually something that was leaked. So the document was was finalized somewhere in 2022, but then we haven't had the government adopting it. But for me, the glimmer of hope we had was when the incoming Minister of Communication, during his vetting, mentioned that it is a document that he is willing to take up and review and then finally push it. So we fingers crossed for that. And mind you, this document was written or drafted pre-ChatGPT. So there's a lot of review that will have to be done because of the revolution that's come into the space because of the LLMs and then how they've taken over the space. So hopefully, let's await some very good news. Okay, Wala, you can also take it up. I just want to understand the data collection process or what your experience is as Farmerline. Thank you very much. So, Darlington, you can touch on it based on health and then agriculture.
Yeah, so in agriculture, we collected quite a number of data sets. So we mentioned, for example, the Academia project, which is a collaboration between GIZ Federal and Caragro. So we've already made this data set open source. So did we make the AI models also open source. So to collect this data, basically we had to visit
Thank you very much. So we are sort of running out of time, and then I'd like to ask a policy question, but then I would like you to answer very precisely and straight to the point. So assuming we had the power, magical power, to come up with an AI policy, or if you had the opportunity to make one statement into Ghana's national AI strategy currently, what would it be? What would it be? What provision would you want the government to make for AI, the AI ecosystem to develop? So I'd like to start from Emmanuel. Just one statement.
I think I have made that statement already.
You can repeat
Open
it.
AI office now. Open an AI office now. I don't, for me, start that and start the framework later. Start the law later.
All right, thank you, Nilante.
Because it will definitely, promote the agenda. Yes.
Yeah, I would say investment. The world powers are, there's an AI war, DeepSeek versus ChatGPT, and where is Ghana in all of this, right? We need to investment in AI and public-private partnerships. That's what I would say.
Darlington, one statement.
I'll say, so I agree with the BBB, but leveraging BBB to scale up existing initiatives that we have in the country, right? We've been doing a couple of things over the years. With governments getting involved, we can now look at it on a much more full-scale national level. So I think that's the key thing that is needed.
Right. Olali. So we want to make way for some questions, at least 2 questions from the audience, but then I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your key AI products. So I would like Farmerline to talk about DALI AI. Darlington, you can talk about Kadi AI or Moremi AI. I think it's very innovative that your AI is targeted at YAM phones, at feature phones. So you can talk about that. Iman, you mentioned the product that you have, so I think you can all talk about it. Please, very briefly, so that we can move into some 1 or 2 questions before we wrap up. So. Right, thank you. Darlington.
Yeah, so with Moremi AI, essentially if you visit moremi.ai, you get to see this generative AI platform where it can answer medical questions you have, it can process lab data, medical images. It can be used by doctors as a medical assistant, or essentially we in the general public can also use it to help with checking symptom or any other medical question you have. And with Kadi AI, essentially we use drones and AI to help farmers to detect diseases and pests on their farm, especially cashew farmers. Yes.
Right, thank you. Me. Thank you. Emmanuel.
Yeah, so so we have Africosity. Africosity is built with the mindset of African courses for university learners. That's the name, Africosity. So if you go there, basically the idea is for you to be able to go through your learning using an AI, assisted system. So once you are learning, it's supposed to recommend probably courses that are similar to the courses that you are offering, or courses that a lot of people are offering, and why they are offering those courses. So basically it's to give you an idea of what people are looking at, right, in terms of learning on the platform. And so you can also probably tailor your, thought through it, and also get an idea why people are learning those courses as well. So it's a whole recommendation systems that's
All right. Thank you very much. A round of applause for the panelists. And we'll take only 2 questions. I think Dorothy already mentioned, raise a hand.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great panel. I wish you had touched a little bit more on AI bias, algorithmic bias, as it affects Africans, as it affects women, as it affects marginalized people, especially given the kind of data sets that you're forced to use at present. The other thing I wish you had spoken about, because we have universities here, is the DeepSeek model and subsequent models coming out of China have shown us that we don't need huge amounts of computing resources to create interesting AI models. This means that if you're a university in Africa, you can get seriously into AI research without the kind of huge investments you hear them talking about from Silicon Valley. And I think we need to stress that, as we're moving forward.
Francis Ofusukobia is my name. I do agriculture and climate change advocacy. My question is a bit global and controversial. I am a business person, and you cannot do business without thinking about your competitors. And if I say competitors here, is the Western world. So my question is, talking about this AI technology, what has been happening in Africa that anyone who rises in technology or any sector, then this Western world will come for him. We can speak about Dr. Tony Mensah, the fiber optic engineer, and many others in NASA, Silicon Valley, I cannot mention all. So how can we protect these individuals that these developed countries so-called come for them, and always we are the poverty level that we cannot develop? Thank you.
So the point is that we don't want Darlington to move to the US. So yeah, any of you can just respond to. Anybody, Darlington, would you like to answer that?
Hello, is this? Okay. Yeah, so with the bias problem, it's a data problem, right? So the way we solve that is essentially what GIZ Fair Forward and the other partners are doing, which is supporting the creation of more representative data. So it's definitely improving, but we still need to do more in that direction. As far as, your controversial question, look, the reality is this. If you are an engineer or researcher, you're not supposed to be a politician. You're not supposed to be a finesser. What it means is that your job is to be in a place where the environment is conducive enough for you to just focus on building technology or doing research. So if you're in Ghana and, even if you get funding from GIZ or any of the international development agencies, you still need to go and finesse someone in some ministry. Why would you endure all of that when you can go to another country where they just say, look, you're a researcher, this is the funding, just focus on the science and technology, you don't need to do politics. So the reality is that it's a frustration that hinders a lot of research, and that's where the problem lies. So if you still have the, let's say, the patriotism, yes, the patriotism will keep some of us here But also because me, I don't have a wife and kids, so I can tolerate some of the stress that comes with. But then at some point, that's why some people, you have wife and kids, you're like, I'm not going to stick around and endure all of this anymore. I'm going to focus on research and where I'm properly backed, where you don't have the whole ecosystem opposing you, even though you are trying to help the ecosystem. So if we want to resolve it, unfortunately, it comes back to a lot of governance issue, but we need to build much more conducive environment that sort of supports innovation and innovators. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So unfortunately, we cannot take an additional question. And I think the speakers, the panelists will be around. You can approach them directly and talk to them. But it's been an amazing conversation. And I hope that you learned a thing or two. And then at least for me, my hope was that we actually get exposed to some of the AI research and work that is going on in Ghana. That's why I actually emphasize that they all share the products that they are working on. And then I hope that we support our own and also give them support in any other way that they want. Sometimes in data collection, he says the language data sounds like pasta. Sometimes we need to collect voice data from everybody in a room just to get quality data. And I hope that when the time comes for such things, we'll participate in it. So thank you all very much for paying attention and asking questions. And then thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go hard and go through our last panel discussion. Also because we want to make sure that at the end of the day, you have enough time over lunch to do networking. Some of the speakers have also confirmed they will hang around. So if you have questions, etc., you can spend the last part of, or you can spend what is the last part of the day asking them questions and also networking in order to prepare for tomorrow. But before we go into that panel discussion over the next 5 minutes, I would like to invite the ever-talented Stephanie, who is going to convert words into action on the grand Arics 2025 stage. Please warmly welcome the talented Stephanie.
We can determine whether we possess the largest potential in hydroelectric power and whether we can harness it and other sources of energy to our own industries. We can proceed to plan our industrialization on a continental scale and to build up a common market for nearly 300 million people.
This was and is the gallant dream of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. It is the year 2067. Glass towers scrape the honest skies, crowned in solar farms that drink the sun's fire. The streets hum with innovation, electric trams weaving through the AI-powered avenues. In Lagos, the biotech hubs split the future into seeds, turning deserts into bread baskets. And in Accra, everyday drones glide like eagles. The Congo rivers pulse with hydropower, feeding the grids of entire nations. And Silicon Valley no longer is a distant dream. It's reborn in Nairobi. All over, the markets hum, they thrum, a melody of commerce, of an Africa where research finally drives the wheels of trade. I do not speak a fable. I do not utter unattainable fantasies. Africa is no alien to commerce that transcends borders, to borders that dissolves in the eyes of unity. Need I remind you that we were the hub of industry once? Need I remind you of the scribes of Timbuktu, of the vast trade networks of the empires of Ghana, of Azum, of Songhai? Trade routes were arteries pulsating with intellect. Ideas flowed richer than the gold dust of the Sahel. This is not mere history, this is research, this is blueprints, this is prophecy. What was can be, and even better, much greater. In the words of Jomo Kenyatta, our task is to make ourselves the architects of the future. And dare I add, of there today, of the now, of the present. And we attest to this solemn truth in our being here. In this solemn gathering of the cognoscenti of society, we have not merely gathered here to merely sip tea. No. Nor to be buried with an onslaught of platitudes, cliches of what Africa could be, lamentations of why Africa isn't. No! We have gathered to be inspired, to lay the steel and circuitry of a continent reborn. And after we leave here, to do. Africa, my darling, it is not a seat at the table you are striving for. Oh, my darling of darlings, Africa, you are the table. Vous êtes la table. Thank you.
Oh, the applause needs to be louder than that. Oh, come on, Africa, you are the table. Excuse us. Those of you who are not clapping, can you do what she did? Thanks. So if you can't do it, clap louder for her, please. Well done, Stephanie. Powerful, gorgeous, beautiful. And now we move to the last panel of the day, but the fourth panel over the next 2 days. Now, one of our panelists has asked, he'll be joining a bit later, but he'll definitely make it on time. He's here, he has been here, had to step out quickly when the times changed. The conversation will be on research and innovation policy, regional innovation strategies, harmonizing efforts across Africa. And before I call the moderator on the stage, I need one person to tell me what your experience has been like being someone in research and facing the frustration of your research not going further away from your desktop. Who wants to share their personal experience? Are you all happy with where your research goes? Are you happy? No? Somebody was shaking. I'm coming to you. We're not leaving here having conversations about conversations. We're leaving here having conversations that transform into action. Yes, sir. I'm coming to you, sir. So the question is, how do you feel seeing that sometimes, not all the time, sometimes your research sits on your desktop, sits on a shelf? Describe that essence of having to move it from where it is to where it should be. Yes, sir.
Francis is my name. I am not a professional researcher. I am a street researcher. I am investment and development ambassador for youth, women, and the grassroots in my organization. So what I was looking for when I was coming to this conference, and what I've been doing is that opportunities for those at the grassroots who are not in the parliament, in the Jubilee House, in this, in that, in that, in the White House and co. So all the conversation that they have been telling us from morning, I've realized what to do to help these people I want to help, getting the investment and the development they need so that they can also grow without thinking about traveling somewhere. All the things are here.
Were you the gentleman who asked the questions about the people coming to... Francis Nenga-Abutera, I say I'm not fighting with you. But well said, well said. Thank you. One more person. Yes, madam. I want you to describe your sentiments. Most of you are researchers. So assuming you had a pivotal person sitting on the stage, what would your advice to her or him be about converting this research into something commercially viable? Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm a researcher, so let's say I'm still in school and I'm adding up to the research community. What I would like to ask the person or do is... All right. So for me, what I've realized that most of our research doesn't go down again to the communities. We tend to do field research where we collect data and what have you, but it all ends up in the libraries or on the shelves and they all go dirty. So when I heard of the commercialization, I wanted to ask myself that, how far are we moving all those research works from the library back to the communities or to the countries that really need them? Because it doesn't normally happen. So my question is, what would they do so that we enhance research, not just for academia, but then communities to really have an advantage of it and all the use for it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. One more person as I walk here. If you could advise a policymaker right now, if you could advise somebody who could sign a check for you right now, what would your advice be as far as moving this research into commercially viable projects?
All right, thank you very much. I'm Mohammed, a civil engineer. What I realized about the research arena of Africa, or should I say Ghana in particular, is that we don't groom researchers from the beginning. All I had to do was to get to third year in university before I knew there was something called research. So in spite of this, you realize that people, or should I say students, had to pay people for them to conduct their researches for them, especially their final year thesis. So I would encourage that we groom these people, or we groom a dedicated class of people to conduct these researches, go to the field, conduct these researches so that it will benefit us. Because if you don't groom this kind of people, they don't know what to do. They don't actually know how to go about it and what to do, even with research, even with literature review. Most of them don't know. Exactly.
So Mohammed, who did you pay? I'm just joking, don't mind me. How many of you didn't know how to research and probably learned a little too late? For the students, how many of you didn't understand what research was and you learned it when it was too late? Did you eventually pass your course or you're in the middle of it? You passed. You look very guilty as you're saying, I passed. Because you know we're online, so somebody's going to say, she didn't pass, I wrote the paper. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's move into our last panel discussion, and it's aptly titled Research and Innovation Policy, Research, Innovation Strategies, Harmonizing Efforts Across Africa. And I would like to invite the Innovation and Technical Lead, Riza Kenya, in the person of Madame Agnes Chuma, to do us the honors of being our moderator. Please, a warm round of applause for Madam Agnes as she takes the stage. Thank you, Madam.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah, since morning I've been feeling like there's no energy in this room. I kept telling her, we need something, we need to do something. Then she did it eventually. I am the one sitting between our lunch and this very nice, interesting conversation. We will do it very quick and smooth. So I have very nice panelists I'll be talking to this afternoon, and I'd like to call them up very quickly. So to start us off, I'll call up Dr. Justina Onuma, our senior researcher from STEPRI. to join me on the stage. And the next one I'll be calling is Mr. Solomon Adjei, President of Association of Ghana Startup. President of the Association of Ghana Startups. Mr. Solomon Adjei. Ha, super. Welcome, sir. In Kenya, we say karibu. And then you say...
How do I respond? Asante sana.
Super. And we are expecting one of our panelists will be joining us in the next 5 minutes. He's Mr. Kingsley Godwin. So on the stage, we have Justina, who is a senior researcher from STEPRI, and we have Mr. Solomon Adjei, from a president of the Association of Ghana Startups. So to start us off, I'd like to welcome us to quickly, in 2 minutes, introduce ourselves. Just tell us about yourself and your experience within the research and innovation policy landscape in Africa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, we understand that we are standing in between your lunch, but please bear with us. We promise that you're going to enjoy this conversation, and you might even forget about your lunch. So I'm Justina Onoma. I'm a senior research scientist with the Science and Technology Policy Research Institute. We are one of the 13 research institutes under the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. So if you've heard of CSIR, it's not just one organization, it's like a mother of 13 different institutes. So mainly my research is within economics of innovation and development. So anything that has to do with like innovation, economics, impact evaluation of innovation programs, I'll be your plug. And also I'm very passionate about research policy industry linkages. So to share with that particular experience within that space, I remember somewhere in 2014, 2016, I was part of a project, a World Bank sponsored project that was run through the Ministry of Environment, Science, Tech and Innovation. And what we sought to do was to create something that in South Africa they call like technology stations. So what we sought to do was we created, like for the CSIR, we had the Technology Development and Transfer Center. Mainly, it was supposed to liaise between all the 13 CSIR institutes that produce innovation and technology, and then like link it to industry. So through that project, we actually transferred, I think if I quite remember, about 20 technologies. So I was on the project as a liaison between policy, between the research and then the industry players. And one thing that we really learned from that particular project was on how demand-driven initiative actually drive commercialization. And in the sense that you as a researcher, you don't just sit you're somewhere, as we usually say it, and then design something and expect that, you know, industry would take it up. So in that module, what we got the researchers together, then they told them what they would need to design. So the researchers will conceptualize the idea, and then the SME person will fabricate it. So once we were done, we transferred that particular technology to them, and it really worked. And beyond that, now that center that was a project is now institutionalized within the bigger CSIR system. So that is how we started off with commercialization within the CSIR. And we are happy that it's now thriving and it's been institutionalized, which is good. So that has been my experience, and then within the innovation and then commercialization space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Solomon.
Right, good afternoon. So my name is Solomon. I serve as the president for the Association of Ghana Startups. We work around 4 key thematic areas primarily. The first one we do is capacity building, where we support these young guys. We run trainings for them, mentorship among others, ensure that we build their capacity so that they're able to start and scale their businesses profitably. The next is access to finance, where we run demo days, pitch competitions, investor meetups, among others, to ensure that these startups get access to good capital, what we normally call the patient capital, to be able to support their operations. Then we do the access to market, where we help them to be able to attract their end user. So you get money to produce, how do you sell, what do you sell? So per that, we partner with other institutions, both locally and continentally, and even globally, to run trade shows, trade fairs, among others, that help them to connect to the real market that they need for their products and or services. The last is the policy advocacy, where, as you speak, we've been working on the Ghana Innovation and Startup Bill that is seeking to outline certain incentive frameworks for the startup and innovation ecosystem. And as part of that, the research is key. So all we do at the research level, from CSIR and all that, the people who take this research or commercialize them are those that we call startups. So whatever that you do, the end goal is for someone to take it up and commercialize it, and that is where the startups comes in. And so we work with CSIR and other institutions to ensure that this research works are properly, commercialized. We don't really have any legal backing and stuff for these things yet. In fact, somewhere last year, we started some work with MESTI. Well, then MESTI, the Ministry of Environment, Science, and Technology now, they had innovation, but now it's no more. But they were then MESTI on some technology transfer issues. So we had a project where we are pairing startups to key industries and to the education sectors and all that, to see how we can commercialize some of the research-based, documents that have been on the shelves over years. And so we are on it. We are hoping that things will improve whilst we push for the bill to be passed. And then once that is done, that hopefully most of these things will see daylight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, our third panelist just landed from Lagos. Sir Kingsley, welcome please to the stage. Yeah, and we were just doing intro, so you have 1 minute to tell us about yourself briefly and just give a bit of your background within the policy in the R&I ecosystem in Africa.
Thank you. Sorry, my apologies. They already know that I had another engagement, so you may be wondering where I was. But nevertheless, my name is Kingsley Godwin, and I'm the program manager for the Nigerian Impact Investing Research Industry Collaborative, which is an initiative of the Nigerian Advisory Board on Impact Investing and the Impact Investors Foundation. What I do basically is that I collaborate with industry stakeholders, the academia, research institutions, innovators, and the startup ecosystem to drive impact investing, research and innovation in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being brief. So very quickly, I'll mention 3 areas that we want to focus today in this panel. 1, we want to see how best can we design innovation policies that integrate, I heard someone raise issues around rural and underdeserved demographics. Policy that would be able to integrate these aspects within the research and innovation ecosystems. You will notice that in our panel, we have a good representation from the research space as well as the innovation space through the startup component as well as the impact investing foundation. So that is one aspect, and the other one is how do we foster localized innovation ecosystems through the policies that we are enacting in our countries. And the last bit, how do we align Africa's innovation policies with global priorities, but ensuring that we are addressing local needs. So really, it's around the policy ecosystem. And as I throw around questions to the panelists, I'll also throw around questions to the audience. I am keen for us to also contribute to this conversation. How do we, what are these areas we feel that we really need policy to intervene, that we are actually facing challenges that would probably some of these policymakers can go ahead and be able to facilitate. So probably I'll start off very quickly with Justina, and my first question to you. So we feel Ghana needs to introduce a legal mandate requiring that a percentage of publicly funded research must demonstrate a clear commercialization pathway, either through licensing, industry partnerships and all that, or a startup. So what mechanisms must be in place to ensure enforcement, accountability, and industry buy-in?
Thank you very much, Agnes. I don't know whether the first part you want me to answer yes or no. But if we are asking if Ghana needs a legal basis to tie commercialization pathways to research funding.
Yes.
I think for me, the first question I'll ask is how much is public research funding portfolio in the first place? You understand, we work within a research community where, especially for my institute, for instance, if we have 10 projects running, I bet you about 9 of them are donor funded. And we have just about 1 of them. And even the one that is maybe public funded, you realize that the donor is World Bank or something through the ministry, you know. So the first question really is how much is government commitment to doing this? Because if you want to tie the national research funding to commercialization pathways and to say that before a researcher or an innovator can be able to access that particular fund, it should have that clear pathway, we understand. But we know commercialization and trying to really push technology, innovation into the market, it's an expensive kind of venture. So if you don't have that kind of financial commitment and political will to really invest in the sector, jumping it'd be like jumping the gun, like trying to really answer the question from the perspective of whether we should necessarily have a commercialization pathway. We really need to understand as government really need to commit to research. So that would be my first advocacy before I even come to think about whether it should. And yes, it should. So once government has established that, and for instance, those of us in Ghana, we've talked about the National Research Fund, I think, since almost 10 years ago. The National Research Fund has never materialized. There is the blueprint, there's a policy, there is that, but it's never been implemented. How committed is government to doing this? So, and to be able to get to the point where government will put the feet down to say that they are really committing resources to research, then we can understand the commercialization pathway. And it's also because it gives the researchers a lot of burden to have that pathway. And I remember during I think I don't know whether it's one of the keynote speakers who mentioned something like people would intentionally kind of align just so they can have access to some kind of support. So if you want to see commercialization pathway in my research proposal, I can show it to you. But the key thing is it really going to be something that would be actualized? Is it going to be sustainable? Example, this project I talked to you about, when we finished transferring the technologies, because there was no sustainable funding to really kind of, track those innovations, we can't even measure how these SMEs have really used and impacted it. So really the conversation to start from government commitment to research, government commitment to innovation. As for the commercialization pathway, yes, indeed, it's important, because otherwise, where would our research go? So that's what I would say, but then the first precursor is for us to really see government commitment to research and innovation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving to you, Kingsley. And Africa's startup ecosystem is valued currently at over $7 billion. Yet global capital inflows remain concentrated in select markets. What bold steps must African nations take to position the continent as a global recognized innovation powerhouse from a policy perspective? Shifting away from research into the startup side as we move on to Solomon.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by asking, do we have investors here in this room? Does anyone here identify as an investor? Is there anyone here? Why don't we have investors in this very important summit? Those are the first questions we need to begin to address. We are talking about 7 billion that is being circulated in the ecosystem. How many of it is locally owned? That's the next question that we must ask ourselves. How many of it is locally owned? These are the problems that we must address. These are the challenges that we must address. The first thing is, a lot of our researchers, innovators, startups are looking at Silicon Valley to give them funds. And after a few years, most of these startups, most of this research, most of these innovations are being bought over. They no longer belong to Africans, even though we have the CEOs calling themselves the CEOs of these startups. Take, for example, Paystack. Paystack has a CEO that's an African, but that startup has been bought over. majority of the shareholders, majority of the stakeholders are not African based. This is what is happening to African startups, African research, and African innovations, and this must change. So what is the solution? The solution is that we must incentivize local investments. We must grow a local investment economy. That is the solution to addressing this first challenge. For growing our economy, the size of our economy, we must incentivize local investments. The government must create a system for local investors to thrive. And one of the ways to do that is to incentivize them through tax reduction incentives. Another way to do that is to create a policy environment where this is going to work, and that involves all stakeholders, all government agencies, all MDAs coming together to draft a framework. There must be concrete frameworks that must be put together by all key institutions to say, oh, these are issues we need to address. We should have gone past talking over these things by now. We should have been at the action and the implementation stage. But once we address these questions of why we don't have investors in most of these kind of rooms, that's where we have to begin to see where we can begin to address the challenges. We have a lot of Africans that have money stacked up in places, in rooms. If the government can say, okay, bring this money and invest in startups, bring these monies and invest in innovations that we have in the country, we will go a long way. We will have a lot of funds. So the problem is not funding, actually. The problem is not that there is no money in Africa or something. The problem is that we just have people who are bereft of ideas on how to cause our innovation system, our SME system to thrive. So this is where we must do a better job at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And just what I wanted to hear, if we are not going to encourage the investors, and it's the policies that will give them the motivation to go in and invest.
Absolutely.
Super. Moving on to you, Solomon. I know Ghana is currently working on a startup bill, right? But we're just wondering, should African nations implement a unified startup act that mandates cross-border access? Deridin this morning just talked about the Innovation Trust Corridor. The Innovation Trust Corridor is supposed to facilitate transfer of innovation, technologies, human capital capacity across the African countries. And the Startup Act being unified could actually be the key to making the Innovation Trust Corridor something that would actually materialize. What do you think? That mandates access, cross-border access, reduces regulatory friction, and all that. What is your thoughts around that?
Well, so the issue of unity or African unity, I'm not the one to talk about it. Africa's first leader, Africa's first leader, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, started this African unity talk. Is this working? All right. So back then, the idea of uniting Africa has been on the shelves since Nkrumah time, since Mandela time, Jomo Kenyatta's time, and all that, right? It is just our time to see what we can do to proceed that agenda. Okay, for me, the answer to your question is a simple yes. We need that united front as a continent. He spoke about the funding then coming in and all that. Last year, Kenya raised about 640 billion or something dollars, right? Nigeria raised about how much of? Ghana, I know Ghana raises 8 million. Shamefully, we are behind Nigeria anyway. I think on that side they beat us to it, but on our jollof we'll beat you all the time. Yeah, So the question is that where did this money come from? You raised the money from where? The money came to you to buy shares in your business. So yes, Nigeria raised huge money. Kenya raised huge money. What it means is that the chunk part of Kenya's startup ecosystem has now been bought by the foreigners. Same as Nigeria. Yeah. Luckily for us, Ghana, we sold just small part. But where do we go from here? We need to ensure that we have local people being interested in supporting local businesses. AU last year released a policy framework to guide all African countries to enact our own policies, our own startup acts across board. It's not pushing for a unified, like, one-off policy for Africa, but it's encouraging all countries to have their own policies. And one of the key things in that document is ensure that we localize the investment, how we can make sure that the environment, the conduciveness is okay enough to get individual, private investors, the rich people in the room. I can see more rich guys in this room. When he asked, nobody wanted to raise their hand, but I can mention their names. I know them. They are here. I can mention their names. They are in this room. How can we ensure that they invest in the ecosystem? The Startup Bill's agenda is to ensure that there is a very conducive environment. One area we're looking at is the tax incentive. All right, so if I can invest into startup businesses and I can get some kind of a rebate, that will give me some kind of assurance to go into. Now, we all know that startups are high-risk area. All right, but the question is, how do we de-risk this high risk? It is the government's duty to ensure that there is a system to more like create that kind of environment, de-risk the high risk, so that these guys will come in, but they are private people, they're looking for returns on their investment, all right? It is not our duty to make sure that you take the money and go and try. If it doesn't work, no, private guys don't do that. So government must come in and make sure that the guys are okay before then the individuals will come in. That is why AU is calling on all countries to enact these policies and make sure that there are areas of interest, and especially putting in tax rebates and all that for the the private guys who to come into the space. So yeah, I agree with you on that point that we need to have one unified front. But as to why we don't have that yet, I don't know. As to if we're going to have that yet, in the near future, I can't tell. But the point is that all of us as African, we need to be interested in investing in Africa. All right. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time at the Flagstaff House with the diaspora office, right? Mm-hmm. And they're looking at how to bring in diaspora investment. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
We have Ghanaians, Africans outside. How do we ensure that they can bring their money back home? The question is, when they bring their money back home, what show that their money will not go wasted? What are we doing to ensure that when they come in to invest here, their money should not go down the drain? Yeah. And so, all they want to bring them back home, we also need to ensure that the system here are conducive enough for businesses to thrive. And so, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But for now, we are getting there. Though we are not there yet, but I believe that together we can make it work. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. Moving back to the research space. Countries like Germany and South Korea, national policies mandate industry research partnerships with financial incentives and procurement commitments here and there. Should Ghana introduce national industrial innovation matching schemes requiring large industries to co-develop solutions with research institutions? If yes or no, depending on your answer, what policy instruments must be introduced to institutionalize this model, ensure accountability, and drive measurable economic growth?
That's a long question. That's a lot. But I think I got one or two things that probably.
The first one is a yes. I've answered yes. So what are these instruments?
Yes. So in terms of trying to establish a matching scheme, I took a read at the National Startup Bill, and you could see that it has a lot of provisions. They are trying to create a national innovation fund as part of the bill. And there is this clause that I was very excited about when I read it, and it's about the condition of a startup partnering with a research institution, to be able to access the fund that it is. So for me, I think there are already ways in terms of policy guidelines that the country is moving towards, except it's not really clear and evident. Because Solomon, if you agree with me, when you read the bill, you really find nothing much on innovation. It's an innovation and startup bill, but then everything is mainly driven on the startup. So I think it's more of consolidating what we already have and trying to see how we can build it forward. So for me, we don't really need, I know that the bill is still in revision, right? So if it's a revision, what I would really suggest is that we cannot begin to incorporate some of these things. But then it's very important in the sense that when you give people condition, it helps people to work towards those conditions. For example, We have the Science Granting Council initiative. That is like some African countries that have signed up to that particular Science Granting Council initiative. And through the Science Granting Council initiative, the Ministry for Environment, Science, Tech and Innovation, no, sorry, now there is no innovation. So Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, they roll out calls for research. And one of the key precursors for that research is for you to have an industry partner. You understand? So before you can even submit a proposal, you need to have an industry partner that writes a support letter for you to submit in addition to your research proposal. So it's working, you understand? So when you begin to tie people down in such manner, people would work. So if we begin to tie matching scheme to say that if you are a very big organization or a very big private sector partner, partner with research, partner with a startup to be able to grow the pipeline, it would work. So finally, I think it's all about trying to consolidate what we already have. As I said, we already have the National Startup and Innovation Bill. It has provisions for the fund. It has provisions for those matching schemes. So let's just begin to see how we can strengthen it. Instead of creating like a new scheme, it doesn't really do much for us as a country. So that's what I would really suggest. Thank you.
Before you proceed, since she brought me in, let me correct a small one. I don't know the version of the bill you read, but I'm happy to announce to you that we listened to you before you started talking. All right. So we had gone beyond that. Maybe you read the 2013 version or something. We have done an updated stuff. Just last week we were in a retreat with the Heritage Lab team and all that. We have actually. I'll share the updated version with you.
Please share.
And you see that more innovation bits are. No, I agree. So when we started the whole document, it was the Ghana Startup Bill. So the focus was not on innovation. So we later had to consolidate, those things. So we realized that the innovation bit was small. It was very limited. And so we had to go back, hire a consultant to do extra work through Mercy and all that to bring out their part of innovation. So that work was done. And we had to go back on a retreat to consolidate some of the feedback and all that. So yeah, we've taken note of that. But again, I'll still get the current draft with you for you to share, to review, and then share any input that you think that should be. It's a public document, all right? And that's a good thing. I can make it available to all of us. In fact, all of us, I'm sure you all registered to be here, right?
Yes.
I'll work with Heritage Lab team, and I'll push an email to all of you, the current document, and give you the opportunity to contribute to it, all right? So you share your views, what you think could be in the bill and all that. Maybe the next 1 week or so, you can get that done, and so that we can all work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Super. Yeah, so look out for that. It's coming into your inboxes. Kingsley, we are just wondering, should Africa introduce regional innovation bonds jointly funded by governments, private sector, and development partners to finance research to market pipelines across borders?
Yes, we should have those kind of cross-collaboration bonds. But the first question is, again, the first question I like to ask, because sometimes you need to ask yourself certain questions as to why are we still talking about that at this stage? Then you can now, that gives you an idea of how to address the issue. So the issue is not because we don't have bonds, because we have several organizations addressing that. We have the Africa Regional Intellectual Property Organization. We have the AU through various instruments like the AFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreements, that are addressing these issues already. But oftentimes, we still have African entrepreneurs, startups, and innovators who have their intellectual properties being hosted in foreign countries and in foreign continental regional level, like the EU in China, the US. And oftentimes, why do they do this? Because they don't feel like their intellectual property is safeguarded in Africa or in their respective countries. So that's the first thing that our intellectual property organizations needs to do, both at the national level and at the regional level. Innovators, researchers must feel that their intellectual property rights are adequately protected. But then there's another issue as to, do we even have the servers to protect these properties? And that's where the issue is, because anybody can host, you can host your intellectual property in our local institutions, but most of the servers that we used are not even housed or are not even owned by Africans. Yeah. So that becomes a challenge. So the solution to that is to see how the African Union can collaborate, all the countries under the African Union can collaborate through the Africa Regional Intellectual Property Organizations. They can come together, working together with the World Trade Organization to demand for fairer laws that governs the intellectual property rights of Africans, innovators and researchers and entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's our last question, then we'll wrap it up, guys. Solomon. So, we believe that a dedicated continent-wide accelerator for high growth African startups with global potential would help address quite a number of challenges. How should we structure to provide necessary funding, market access, and strategic support to these startups to achieve international scalability and sustained success? Let's just start within Africa.
Interesting. So you mentioned something earlier on that most of the times, even the money that you see coming through, all the funds are from donors, right? Yes. Even where you see is the government money, there's always a donor behind it. So government has gone for a loan from World Bank and all that. That's what they use for these things. So I don't know how it will work or what we should do on that scale. But like I said, AU last year has released a document. Maybe the next phase we can propose such things. But then once again, a DP is championing that agenda. UNDP, about 3 years ago, they launched the Timbuktu project.
Yes.
So the Timbuktu project is to set up a centralized hub in some selected countries, and that is supposed to use for such a mandate, right? But it is not a country thing. It's not a government thing. It's a UNDP championed agenda. I don't know to what extent they want to take it, because it's their project. Government of Ghana is on board as a partner. I'm sure Nigeria started operating somewhere last year or so. Nigeria had one of those things then. So they are setting up various hubs across with a centralized point. Okay, but once again, that is a DP-funded initiative. I don't know if the AU will get to a place of such uptake. I don't know yet. Yeah. Somewhere last year, a few friends of mine started discussing an alliance of Africa startup agenda, where we want to bring on board all the players in the space across Africa. So we know that in Ghana, when it comes to startups, it is the Association of Ghana Startups. If you go to Kenya, it's the Kenya Innovation Center. If you go to Nigeria, it's it. So we can have one platform to start advocating for things that we need, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But these things, before it can work, it really needs the backing of the various government, the backing of the African Union, agenda as a whole. And I don't know, I think this is new to us. Again, I heard someone talk earlier on about the startup world from Silicon Valley, which is true. So it is new to us as Africans, right? So step by step, I'm sure we'll get there. Now, AU has showed interest and says that we should all enact startup bills to give us that, dedicated support, intentional approach supporting startups and innovators across board. Who knows? The next phase, per what we are doing, proposing this into the next phase should be that, okay, let's set up a centralized startup, you mentioned IP, centralized portal or something like that, to support IP protection, ideas protection, to ensure funding for startups across board through the AU structures and all that. We can get there. I mean, this is a discussion about free trade area. Started somewhere, and now it is in operation, headquartered in Accra. Again, we beat Nigeria to it. Headquartered in Accra. But then how are we leveraging even on that to be able to scale beyond borders in terms of trade? All right. So let's see how it goes. I mean, let's keep the conversation going and see what happens next. I'm sure we'll get the ears of our leaders, and this thing can be possible. But I think that it is possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move back to the audience, and I'd like to welcome two comments or questions, a question or a comment, just two. Good.
Thank you. I must say the conversation worried me. It worried me because I wonder if we're really talking about reality. First of all, it's a recipe for disaster, in my view, to take inexperienced academics and match them with inexperienced company owners and expect that you're going to get success. I think we have so many models that we can be looking at. Let's look at that. It's not a question of matching a startup with the research. You know, it can be, but you could find an experienced business owner who's been in the field for 20 years and is looking to exploit, or somebody who actually commissions you to do the research because they need it for their business. So this is what was really worrying me about what was being said. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether this is actually a comment or a question, but then as a student, I've observed one thing that most of us complete university with the vision of applying for scholarships to go and study and further our research studies abroad. And the question is, what are we learning? Most students go abroad to go and study stuff that are not actually beneficial to the country. And most of these study abroad programs are not regulated. You know, people come to the country from various universities outside and come and, should I say, convince our students that they provide better opportunities for research studies and all that, and our students go. But when they come back, what do they come back to? How does their research study benefit the country? And what is the country doing about this? And this is a term I carved myself, that why won't the country begin to think about strategic placement, where we send out the best of our best, just like they will take, and then send them to places where they do researches that are going to benefit us as a country. They come back and we fund them and push them into the industries which will benefit us. So that's it. Thank you.
Friends of Osukobia is mine. Mine is a contribution to how the startups can get funding for their businesses. If you come to Ghana and ask the startups, are they getting money from the banks? The answer is no. If you go and ask the banks why they are not giving the money to the startup, they will tell you, the banks will tell them they are not keeping their books. Talking about impact and other finances from outside Africa, what has also been happening is that most of the young ones who get financing, instead of putting the money in their business, sometimes you see them buying big cars and building houses. This is also a developmental issue. Most of us have been in the poverty line for so long, so the moment he gets of $5,000, he thinks of buying a car and enjoying small. And those who give money to, they also have, they are in an ecosystem. They have a circle. So if they bring money, let's say $10 million to Ghana, and we don't utilize the money well, they also have information. Let's say an American investor is coming to give money to a Ghanaian. The first point of contact is American embassy in Ghana. He will contact them, oh, I want to invest in Ghana. How are the Ghanaians? I want to invest in Nigeria. And then they will tell them, oh, Ghanaians, don't give them the money. The boys will chop. So I want to appeal to my manager who's doing research in impact financing that one of the things I want them to do is to help startups learn how to utilize the money where the small funding that are coming. so that it will not block the chances of those who want to use it in a good sense.
Right.
Because if $10 million come today and we spoil it, next time they will not bring again. If you go to Northern Ghana, millions of dollars have been sent there, but you go there, you don't see any changes. They will tell you it's a development take time. How many years are they going to change?
Thank you. There was one hand and we wrap it up.
Okay. Hello, my name is Kwame. I'm with the Ghana Ethic Alliance, and I really enjoy the conversation. I think, for me, when I think about all of the conversations that we've had, my question is, what's the vision of Africa that Africans want to see, right? When we are able to be very clear on that collectively as a people, all of the conversations around what research are we supposed to do, how are we supposed to allocate money, and all of those things become very easy. But then from the AI conversation to this one, we are just clearly seeing a thread, right? That everybody has a certain picture of what their country and Africa is supposed to be like. And so when we are talking research, a lot of it sounds very abstract. You know, maybe you relate, but then the other person can't relate because that's not the picture they have in their minds, you know? And I also side with Solomon when he mentioned something about the fact that even the words, right, that we've picked, so words like startup, what does it mean in the African context? Maybe it's not even supposed to be startup. It should be something else because you think in the language that you speak in, right? So we think startup and we are thinking Silicon Valley. Next thing is about raising funds. But who is giving you money over here? There's a lot we need to think. There's a lot of decolonization that needs to happen for us to be able to chart and get to that vision that we want to get to. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just because the microphone is in this area, please allow. I'm Paulina, and I've been two points. I've been reviewing the innovation policies of Singapore, UAE, and Ghana. There's something clear. We need to, first of all, sharpen what I will call, research and innovation muzzle. So we
Research
need
and innovation what?
muzzle.
Muzzle.
Muzzle as a person, the component, the cells. And this is because research need not be seen as a tasking activity. We need to, as a people, build that muzzle that makes us want to know why things happen. And out of that, it helps to build into our firm or industry level. Another thing, we need not see research as outward facing. Oh, because this is funded by X, we're doing this as a product. But at the firm level, individuals are feeding into industry. And I think a lot of what I see in our policy is missing that. We only link it in a way as a standalone, but we need it as a individual level, feeding into firm level, and then the government. This is me wearing my economics hat. Thank you.
You have wrapped it up well. I will welcome the panelists to comment. Wrap it up. You have 30 seconds. No, 1 minute at the most. You wrap it up as you respond to one of the questions or comments that have been responded. So we'll start from the end and we end this way.
Thank you. Let me start with my friend there. Yes, I think I agree very well with you. There has to be a rethinking of, in our mindset, there has to be a change of how we think and how we reason as Africans. That's where it actually begins. We have to rethink our long-term, why we are doing the things we are doing. We have to rethink it in a long time. Many researchers, many innovators in Africa, they are doing what they're doing just for, okay, my university asked me to conduct a research, so I'm just conducting that research to pass this exam. We're not doing because we are trying to transform system. We're not doing it because we're trying to cause a change. And that is where we must change our thinking and ideology. We must begin to think the future. We must begin to, as a people, we must begin to think how to take over the next 10, 15 years. That's where it begins. Then I'll go to is it a question that he talked about as to why some people will get money and then they will squander it to buy a car. Again, it boils down, it links to just what he has said. It's still about the mindset we have as a people, the ideology and the values that we have imbibed as a people. We're not thinking about sustainable solutions. And sometimes I don't blame the people because sometimes the people, they do what they see the leaders do. You know, the resources that are meant to develop the system are actually also being embezzled. So sometimes that is just what the people replicate, but that has to change. So it's both a top-bottom approach and a bottom-top approach. Put it both ways. The younger people rising up wants to do what their leaders are doing, and those that are even here now say, "Oh, when I get there, I'll do something different." And then when they get there, they don't do something different. So we have to change our orientation. We have to change the way we think. So if we are going to transform research and innovation to commercialization, there must be a change in our thinking patterns. There must be a change in our thought processes. And for funders, just don't give out the money without doing your due diligence. Look at the organization you want to fund. Do they have the structures to be able to hold funding? Not just somebody that carries a bag and say, "Oh, I'm a CEO." He doesn't have an office. He doesn't have anything that's a verifiable track record that he has built and sustained in the course of 1 to 3 years. And you give him $5,000, $10,000. Man, that guy has seen his next meal. So please, we need to do better on how we even evaluate startups that receive funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. At this point, I don't know whether we've earned, whether you want to dish your lunch or you want to still listen to us. So just to wrap up, basically what I want to stress on is consolidation of what is already existing. We don't really need to reinvent the wheel. We have so many frameworks, like policy frameworks, that we can just kind of tweak them around to really suit our research commercialization. So going into her question, education must be democratized. Like, if you want to force people to turn into a certain way, it's not going to work. So for your question, for instance, if we want to have a demand-driven kind of education and research, that is where I think the scholarship scheme, what's the name? The scholarship secretariat, exactly. This is where their policy may lie. So if you're giving people scholarship to study abroad, it should be tied to what you think the country would need. It's like if you're in an institution and you want to go and do postgraduate studies. Some institutions are very strict. They want to make sure that it's aligned to what the institution requires, right? So if government is giving money, scholarship to students to study abroad, that is where we need to begin the conversation from. But not me, who has struggled to get my Cornell admission, and you want me to learn something. I'm going to learn what I feel that would traject my career. So we need to begin the conversation from who funds the research and what is needed, why are they funding the research and the education in the first place, and target what the country needs so that they will come back to fill in the gap that you are sponsoring them for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So for my final words, I think the first one I'll say is that for a gentleman who mentioned that you go to seek for a loan, they tell you to bring whatever it is. As startups, please, loan is not for you. Please, let's get that from day one. Do not go for loan to start a business. It is against even the Bible that we read. Yes, the Bible said once the person who gives you a loan, automatically we tell the person is a slave because you work to pay him.
Yeah.
Until you pay him, nothing is left for you. All right? So please, loan is not for you as a startup. I beg you, don't go there. You can look at other alternative modes of funding. VCs, angels, and government grants and all those ones are fine. But loan, I beg you, hold on for now. Now, the issue about the vision. What is the vision for Africa? Somebody asked. Yeah. Where do you want to go as Africans, right? Yeah. I cannot define the African vision now, but maybe I can talk about the Ghanaian vision of the ecosystem. Somewhere last year, by the support of ITC, we started working on a 5-year Ghana National Startup Development Strategy. So that is we put it in measure that tell us what you want to see happen in the next 5 years. Yeah. All right? So I can talk about that. But for the African one, maybe we can talk about that tomorrow. So, but I want to implore all of you to come on board and make your input. Where do you want to see Ghanaian ecosystem in the next 5 years? You as a person, as a founder, as an investor, or as a mentor, or whatever it is, where do you want to see the Ghanaian startup ecosystem in the next 5 years? Once again, I will share this document with you. so we can also contribute to it. It's a document for us, by us and for us. Let us all make our input and ensure that we can shape the concept to see it what we want to see happening for us in this country. All right? Lastly, I want to call on all of us. You can be a mentor, you can be a founder, you can be a financier, you can be an investor, whatever it is. Please take interest in the ecosystem. At least adopt one or two startups or young people and start investing your time. Anita can do much. I know she's doing a lot. She can do a lot of it. Investing into startups. Anita have plenty money. I know this man have got plenty money. Plenty money. Let us invest into this ecosystem. We will grow and we will get there. Lastly, the association is open for all of us as startups. If you are here with any idea to start and you already started, you are more than welcome to join us. Get to our website, agsghana.org, register, and then whatever support you need, be sure we can support you on that. Let's all work together for the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will say one thing. We all have a responsibility as individuals to contribute to a thriving and enabling ecosystem. And it all starts with what role you take, even at policy level, how you contribute. You asked about the vision. Have you read the current draft startup bill? What is your contribution to that? You as a Ghanaian, you as a startup, you as an innovator, you as a researcher. I believe you have policies at national level. Charity begins at home. Before we think about Africa, we need to think about our in-country policies. And these policies are what are going to build up to the national level, Africa level, continental level policies and the environment that we are trying to build. That's all I'll wrap up for today. Thank you very much. Please clap for our panelists. Come, let's take a photo here.
Sorry. And while they take their photo, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of day one. For the official part, I want to encourage you to move into the networking session, which is lunch. Well, of course, a late lunch, but please, we really want to ask you to engage with the individuals that you've met here, particularly the ones you are just meeting for the first time, the ones you don't know. We've got a wonderful display outside. Find out what the companies are about, where you can take part, where you can engage, or where you can share best practices and ideas. I would love to give the last word to the Vice President of Heritage Labs, Mr. Oklu, if you are there. Mr. Oklu, can you give us the last word in preparation for not only the networking session immediately after this over lunch, but also in preparation for tomorrow? Please give him a round of applause as he comes back on stage to share his last words for the day to you.
Thank you very much. It's a really exciting thing to see that everybody was so much engaged, and we've had meaningful conversations. Policymakers, innovators, business captains, people from the military. Thank you for your service, sir. Really appreciate all the useful conversations that we've had. There's one thing that I noticed did not come up that I just want to mention. And this goes to researchers and innovators. You know, when you create your innovation, you have a certain love and affinity to it. You hold it to your chest. Remember, when it's time to commercialize that innovation, you'd have to let go, okay? Just a bit. You would not necessarily lose it, but you'd have to change your mindset and realize that now it's no longer just your project. It's a project that's going to be handled collaboratively in order to commercialize. So that's just some food of thought for you to keep in mind. Because this also facilitates commercialization. Sometimes you have resistance from the creators of these ideas and researchers. Today has been a great session, and tomorrow we're going to talk about a lot more. We will be delving into rural development and how to find out what potentials we can dig out from there. And there are other panel sessions that are really interesting that we will expect you to come on board and continue the conversation so we can conclude in a grand way tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time. Networking sessions continue at lunchtime, as Anita told us. And I'm very happy to have had you all here. Thank you so much, and bon appetit.
Mr. Oklu, thank you very much. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that ends day 1 of our 2-day summit. Lunch is now being served. Our ushers kindly help our delegates to lunch, and we highly encourage you to share ideas, opinions. Please disagree to agree to disagree. The idea of being here is not to hear all the things you want to hear, but to be able to argue what you're hearing and what you would like to see being done better. So thank you very much. Networking and lunch will begin now. Ushers, please guide our delegates, our VIPs, please guide our VIPs to the lounge and our delegates to lunch. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Your back asset, you know they play my chumba rest. Me see my soul, but no bata me congo no. Baby congo so, you dey see me no fit kill am for my head. I need to know where you dey. Oh yes, me all okay. Shabali girl no delay. Oh, when there's a no delay. I need to know where you dey. Say me all okay. Shabali girl no delay. Oh, when there's a no delay. Come to my da. Oh, excellent, excellent, oh, excellent, excellent. You go put me for emergency. Shorty, excellent, excellent, oh, excellent, excellent. You go put me for emergency.
Tell me I need you. You make a man feel in you. All I want is you. Oh, yeah, tell me what I don't feel do. I you. Whatever you want, I go give you. Oh, my baby boo. 247, girl, I'm ready. Body set it. Go to my shit for my baby. Wanna do many things very crazy. Now she telling me say she be Jensen. She working Fendi. Pull up in a Benz. Bum bum they offend me when she bend it. You go pull me for it. I need to know you did. Oh, you say me all look again. I don't for you nothing else. Girl, you don't get any issue. Then I go hold you well. And I will do anything that you wish. Me share my heart, so don't pay me for it. No, here's a tomorrow, tomorrow. Somebody else come take you for it. They do me lomo, lomo. This thing not be normal. Me no want to do more. Please don't give me trouble. You can do me lomo, lomo. This thing not be normal. It could be my lover.
Pick you up in the party. Bring it on what is on your mind. Your bayonet is a Bonnie and Clyde, babe. And all that you promised to show and tell me no time or soon when I'm right here. You and I together, so we go together.
malato, toma ca, toma keto, di, toma shito. Say them go feel it, them go run it down, them go hold it, them go. Say them go feel it, them go run it down, them go hold it, them go. I be talking to myself, and I don't even notice. She got me feeling like a zombie, and she dey shoot like Chuck Norris. The way she put her body down, you got me falling truly. I just touched down. When I see you now, subbing on the phone, calling you tonight. I wanna make you sure, make we know the fight. I don't wanna sleep alone, wanna hold you tight. I fool my eye, but I'll be alright.
Anytime you turn around, I they won't see your back throw it. The way you they move, I know fit to decompose it. Boss, my dragon. Make I give you fire, no stop. You want me like you said, yo. Let the way you did rough me all night long. I'm not your joke. I'm my talent to say your mind there. Then go here next door and every door. I'm my talent to. Then go here next door. This kind of physique you get today make me grow away. One mommy to me tonight, give you standing ovation. Cut into pieces like say you be scissors, yeah. One mommy to me tonight, I'm stuck on your waist.
I'm a tree cream and I'm a yawo dantem. Some of baby feel now watch me ni dampem. But the same shed I am a send me better. So go she am me and I make a cancel. Say baby, are you okay? Me say I'm a me. With my dream, boning ko amba mi trimu. So for bana wa mama dream ni na ye bataza. Nen so empade me wo yesu dimu me nyame tiase. Suje, Danny Wichino na mami puse. Ne me de be yo no be tuche. Odo so fe mano na me hunu se me de wo bi endin se. Se go bo mi tia mama town fonte. Ride me here na me son sante. O de me ka atopa na me fante. Anadri, mame fa me tin nante. Anadri, mame fa me tin nante. Anadri, mame fa me tin nante. Anadri.
Yeah, stop to do, yeah. Good boy. It's in me, take it easy. Catch some cruise, my cheese. You spoke one for days. Come on for the body, know the breathe. Put on your shoe, make it stand at this. All your sorrow, make it dance them free. If you know be kalala, yeah. If you know be kalala, get them put. One my job, ijogo, yeah. What you want, my jojo? Ijogo, yeah. When you my jojo, yeah. And if you know be kalala, get them put. Odupa, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, joy is coming. Dupa, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming. Only early in the morning, yeah. Dupa, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming, joy is coming. Dupa, Olua, yeah. Joy is coming. Only early in the morning, yeah. Up never. Do what you wanna do. I want to be shining what good. Yeah. Do me dirty, do me tender. I want to put it all day. I want to put it all day. Yeah. It's in a me, take it easy. Catch some cruise, my cheese. You spoke one for days. Come on for the body, know the breathe. Come on for the body, know the breathe. Come on for the body, know the breathe. Come on for the body, know the breathe.
For the boys, them all. Wow. Yeah. Aningila salangawe when yawe. Aningila salangawe when yawe. Aningila salangawe when yawe. Aningila salangawe when zalika. When zalika. Don't break me, don't use me, don't lose me, don't